Hello, friends, and welcome to a brand new show here at Spike Week called The Confidence Game. Myself, Eric Beinfor, and two of my very good friends, Neil Orfield and Jordan Vanek, are going to come to you every single week to bring you some of our maybe spiciest takes about some of the most polarizing situations in fantasy football. But specifically, we're going to discuss how confident we are in those takes. It's very easy, as I'm sure that you are aware, to rip a bunch of takes. I like this player, or this thing could maybe happen, right? This guy could break out. This guy could be the wide receiver too. But how confident are you really in that thing happening? That's what we're going to do every single week to discuss how strong do we actually feel about some of these takes that we have. In this first episode, we're going to discuss the wide receiver 2's by ADP on Underdog versus the wide receiver 3's, and how confident we are that maybe that wide receiver 3 might actually usurp the wide receiver 2 in terms of fantasy production, right? So your Pat Bryant's versus your Cortland Suttons, your Devon Velays versus your Jordan Tysons, your Keon Coleman's versus your Khalil Shakir's. How confident are we, or what is the probability that that player outscores the wide receiver 2 in fantasy? We dive into every single team across the NFL and how probable it is for that situation to occur. And we dive very deep into some of those situations and the nuances and the things that you need to know for fantasy football. I'm very excited to bring you guys this show, but I've rambled on for long enough. Let's go ahead and get on into it.
Let's get into it. Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. This is, so for peeling, back the onion or whatever the appropriate analogy is, the three of us, as you said, talk every Sunday morning. We talk, we've gotten to know each other over the years. And, Neil, you and I were talking about like doing some kind of show or whatever. And you were spot on. Like, let's like, we could all just like get together and do the same old fantasy football podcast that like everybody else is doing. But like, why don't we try and spice something up? And then this came about, and I love this specifically, this sort of confidence game idea, because it's really easy, right? And you guys know this, like to rip your takes. We're about 3 weeks away from me ripping some god awful takes next to you guys in, for week 1 DFS, right? But like, how confident are you specifically in the take? I think it's like really the most important part, of all of this. And we never really get that deep into that part of it. It's like, okay, I think this might happen, but like, how confident are you really that thing is going to happen? So I'm pretty excited to see how this goes and see where we defer. And of course, we're recording this after week 1 of the NFL preseason, so we got a little bit of extra stuff to sink our teeth into.
Yeah, and I just I changed what we're seeing on the screen so that you can see the board that we're going to be using. And I want to be clear once again. So the 0 to 5%, we're saying that basically the wide receiver 3 has no chance of outscoring the wide receiver 2 without an injury or something from weeks 11 through 17. And then of course 75% plus. I don't know if any of us got there, but 75% plus.
No spoilers.
The wide receiver 3 is going to outscore. I'm pretty confident the wide receiver 3 is going to outscore the wide receiver 2 by underdog ADP in those final weeks. So I think it should be a fun game. Jordan, I know you went ahead and ranked all of your players. Are you excited for the game? How are you doing today?
I'm definitely excited. You mentioned no injuries or suspension, so it's fitting that I'm wearing a Brandon Ayuk jersey for this show, just to kind of tie it all together for that wide receiver ranking. Because I was looking through my closet and all the jersey I had, it's really a bad group of. I have a McCaffrey jersey, I have Luke Kuechly, I've got this Brandon Ayuk jersey. Unfortunately, Josh Allen he's beaten the curse of what jerseys I buy, it seems. But I felt like I was like, I got to wear a receiver for today's show. So I decided to throw on the Brandon Ayuk. But I love the idea of the show, and it's going to be interesting to see where some, old receivers that like we just won't give up on, like a Rashad Bateman or some of the other guys that we'll be talking about here, to see if they can outbeat the overhyped, Jacoby Lane or some of the other guys that we'll be talking about.
Overhyped. You notice he said over. He didn't say hyped. He said over.
All right, getting those biases out early. Love to
Foreshadowing.
All right, well, let's just get into it. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to go team by team, just alphabetical order. We could have started with just the ones that are the most obvious, but let's just go through alphabetical order, because we're going to each take turns choosing the first bucket and then see who disagrees. So Jordan, do you want to take it away with the Arizona Cardinals. The first one is, what do you think the odds are that Kendrick Bourne can outscore Michael Wilson from weeks 11 through 17?
If this was Michael Wilson versus Marvin Harrison, I think I'd have a lot more confidence. But for me, this is a 0%. Like, unless Michael Wilson actually, has any sort of injury, which we're saying is not going to happen, I think it'd be pretty shocking if Bourne was the better player on the field. Bourne has been a journeyman that kind of finds his spots for some spike weeks. But every single time it's like, oh, this team just literally doesn't have a receiver out there. The Eastern Washington standout for him has been incredible for his career, but I doubt he's getting a lot of production from Jacoby Brissett as the third option or fourth option in this offense if you include Trey McBride. So for me, it's just a 0.
Eric, anything different for you there?
Nope, that's the exact same bucket that I had them in. I think it could have been interesting if they would have drafted some, if they did a third round Jacoby Lane or something like that, where Michael Wilson is clearly just a head and shoulders above Kendrick Bourne, but there is like a little bit of uncertainty about like how real was the second half of the season for Michael Wilson. Like it certainly wasn't totally fraudulent from his production. He was really efficient. It wasn't just like if they threw 50 times a game. I always make the parallel to like, this wasn't a Cedric Tillman situation where Jameis is just throwing 50 times, and he's actually still like recording 1.4 yards per route run, but he's scoring 30 fantasy points because he's running 60 routes, and again, it wasn't that kind of situation. He was actually quite good. And it seems like he's built upon that, but that's not a lock. It's just Kendrick Bourne is not enough competition for me to care,
Yeah, so I actually put it at 6 to 14%, but I have no issue with 0 to 5%. I think you're probably right. I think I said 6 to 14%. My thinking was just, this is a team that could be really hyper focused on Jeremiah Love and Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride. So there might just not be a lot of leftovers, or we're not really sure how good Michael Wilson is. So it could just be, easier for somebody to outscore him just because he scores 3 touchdowns to Wilson's 2 or something. But ultimately, I don't know that I actually believe it. I think that you're right. 0 to 5% is probably actually correct. So I think
the point of the confidence game, we knocked it out of the park already with the first one. Yeah, you got to put to the test.
Yeah, no, I think I actually agree with you guys. So I'm gonna go with you there. The second one, Eric. Now this is a tough one. I think right away for you. I have no real confidence in this. Jahan Dotson versus Zachariah Branch. What do you think the odds are that Dotson can outscore Branch?
If there was a confidence game for my confidence pick, like I had to assign a how confident am I in my confidence level, this might be the most difficult one because Jahan Dotson is, again, you like, it's important to you reiterated, like, it's by underdog ADP, and so Jahan Dotson is probably week 1 technically the wide receiver too, like he's probably playing in 2 wide receiver sets. It's just also that Jahan Dotson is terrible. So like, I can't think of a worse fit than a really inefficient, small, like sort of field stretching outside wide receiver with Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. Maybe Michael Penix is playing from week 11 on. But I also don't have a lot of confidence in Zachariah Branch either. So I put it 30 to 49 as sort of admittedly hedging, like totally admittedly hedging. I don't particularly like either of these players. Zachariah Branch is not the worst prospect I've ever seen, but also like a very much a gadgety slot, low ADOT kind of Malik Washington-esque yak type prospect. And so it's similar to what you were saying with like, there may just not be enough left for anyone else besides Drake London, Bijan, and Kyle Pitts here. So like, yeah, at that point, Jahan Dotson could outscore Zachariah Branch. It's kind of like, the lesser of 2 evils, but I don't have a lot of confidence in either player. This is just more of I particularly don't have confidence in the wide receiver too.
I had the exact same 30 to 49% for the same reason, just like kind of throwing my hands up. Yeah, seems a little bit more likely that the rookie wide receiver can flash something. Like, so I think he's slightly more likely to outscore Jahan Dotson, who basically did nothing for multiple years in Philadelphia aside from weeks when AJ Brown was out. So I think he's going to be dealing with the same situation here with Drake London and Kyle Pitts ahead of him. So I just have no confidence in Jahan Dotson or Zachariah Branch. But yeah, 30 to 49% seems right to me. Jordan, where are you at?
So to add to it, I think I'm in that tier as well from like the standpoint of where you guys are coming from. I think Olamide Zaccheaus outscores both of them. I think that is actually going to be. I know Underdog has Dotson as the ADP one, and if people want to go and say like Tennessee's offense in college football is a joke from route running and different things like that, go watch Zachariah Branch at Georgia. That was the biggest joke of a route tree I've probably ever seen. I can't believe Mike Bobo still is out there coaching for Georgia on the offensive side of the ball. And if you want developmental receivers at Georgia, good luck. I think this offense should be running 3 tight ends, but that's a college conversation, not the NFL.
All right, let's move on to Baltimore. And of course, I'm going first here and setting myself up to look like a complete idiot because I have
yes.
Rashad Bateman outscoring Jacoby Lane weeks 11 through 17, 50 to 74% of the time.
Baby.
I know Bateman was really bad last year, but he's excited about the way Baltimore is using him right now. He's talked about how he's excited. They're going to be using him all over the formation. And we've seen him have a big year just 2 years ago. I think that he is likely to beat out the rookies. Now, weeks 11 through 17 does make things a little bit more complicated. Jacoby Lane, of course, the hottest thing in best ball right now. Everybody's, reaching up to get Jacoby Lane earlier and earlier. And I think it's slightly more likely that Rashad Bateman outscores him. Obviously, I think that, the upside for Lane is obviously a lot higher because he is, the exciting young rookie. But I think just like at a base, I think it's more likely that Bateman outscores him weeks 11 through 17 by underdog scoring. Jordan, I guess I'll go to you next because I think we're going that order. Am I crazy? Where do you have this one?
I am in the tier below, but I don't hate the 50s. Like I'm in between that. I feel like high 45% is kind of where I'm at. I like Bateman still. Like Bateman, when you watch him play football, he's been still pretty. Now he hasn't been good from a production metrics, but just watching the way he gets off line of scrimmage, beats press coverage, stuff like that. I think he's going to be better suited this season to be able to do those things. Jacoby Lane, I think when teams actually get real corners on him, not the preseason stuff, he'll be able, like, it's going to be a problem for him getting off the line of scrimmage and doing some of those things because he had a problem with it at USC. The game against Notre Dame where Leonard Moore decided to travel with Mekhi Lemon, Notre Dame basically left Christian Gray on an island, and Jacoby Lane didn't really do much. He couldn't really get things going, and that's the kind of thing that I fear for in the NFL. And this Ravens offense is super intriguing just because they get the Bears and Ben Johnson type of mind just kind of coming in there as their OC. He only spent 1 year with Ben Johnson, so let's see how much he really learned. But for Bateman, I think he's going to be their X, and I think he'll be able to – he's not going to be a great fantasy asset, but he could easily be the number 2 passing option behind Zay Flowers.
Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, I struggle with this one immensely. It's like the really fun version of the one I had to just do where I think they both suck, and this one, like, they both might be good. And I know that feels weird to say about Rashad Bateman, but just 2 years ago, Rashad Bateman had 700+ yards and 9 touchdowns in the Baltimore Ravens offense. He was the one who sat, again, mentioned we're recording this after week 1 of the preseason. He didn't play in the preseason. By all accounts, he is the locked in wide receiver 2. And so we can hate it as much as we want, but they don't seem to hate Rashad Bateman. And so I was not a particularly big Jacoby Lane fan as a prospect. For some of the reasons like Jordan mentioned. He also just wasn't particularly efficient. He wasn't a big separator. So I don't think we've seen his ability to like truly separate in the NFL yet. I understand they're hyping him to the moon. And look, I'm drafting him full stop. Like I'm drafting him because I think this is the kind of thing you do want to take swings on in best ball, especially. But like, it's definitely somewhere between. I think any lower than the 30 to 49% one would be wrong. Whether you feel much more confident in Bateman or a little less confident in Bateman, it goes between 30 to 49 and 50 to 74. But I did put it in 30 to 49, but I don't feel very comfortable about that because I think it's like, again, it's like I'm excited about both of these guys, and either one of them could be really nice hits. So it feels really awkward, but I think there's also a lot of reasons to be excited about Rashad Bateman. He's just not the guy that's going to get the hype in training camp. Right? Why are you going to hype up, a late 20s guy who you kind of know what he is? You're going to hype up the young rookie who's, of course, making contested catches and one-handed catches and stuff. But you got to separate and you got to beat press coverage and you got to do those things on Sundays in the NFL. So I'm not confident in Jacoby Lane.
So it sounds like we're all like right around 50%. I'm like slightly higher than 50%. You guys are slightly below 50%. So if we did, consensus, I would move it down. But I think we're gonna have a lot more in that bucket. And it sounds like neither of you actually have issues with 50 to 70. So I'm just gonna leave it.
Leave it
in 50 to 74%. All right. Well, then we'll move on. Jordan, Keon Coleman outscoring Khalil Shakir weeks 11 through 17. What are the odds?
I got it at 6 to 14%, thinking just from a touchdown upside perspective. Like Shakir, I think, an underdog, it's just devalued the receptions. Coleman, I think, can earn some red zone work with the Bills staff because they didn't really do too much. Besides, I know DJ Moore's coming in, but he's already a little banged up with that ankle. And I obviously am not high on Keon Coleman. This is probably like an 8% to 10% type of thing for me. You have your owner come out and just bash you in the first press conference of the head coach. Like, what are we trying to do here? But obviously, I know Joe Brady doesn't necessarily feel that way in those meetings. So I think you could get some red zone scoring that could put him over Shakir, but I'd probably say like 82% chance that Shakir is outscoring him in all formats.
All right. I think I also had it 6 to 14%. Sorry, I guess I jumped you. I should have went to you first, Eric. Where are you at with this one?
I can't. 6 to 14 is the one that I feel like I don't have all that many of, and we all landed on 6 to 14 on the same guy. That's exactly what I have. It's kind of what both of you guys said, but specifically just Keon Coleman. Like they didn't bring in. I kind of like Skylar Bell, but it doesn't seem to be going very well for Skylar Bell in training camp. Keon is still running with the starters, and the competition is DJ Moore, who, as you said, is already banged up. And I know some people are very excited for DJ Moore. I'm a little more skeptical of him. Again, in real NFL games, not the preseason. And then it's like Josh Palmer. And yeah, Khalil Shakir is like a pretty good football player, but in a very specific role, which is not super conducive to fantasy points. In like a big shootout game where Josh Allen throws 50 times, that sounds good for Shakir, but it's also good for Keon Coleman. Like I don't have to love him for the Bills to like him more than me and him to catch some touchdowns down the stretch, and that might be all it requires. Is be better than Skylar Bell and be out there catching passes from Josh Allen. That's all it takes.
All right, easy game. We're all on the same page with the Bills. Now, Eric, I guess this is more interesting than the last one that you had to start with. Xavier Legette over Jalen Coker, or maybe it's not. I guess I don't know how you see this. Where do you have the odds on Xavier Legette outscoring Jalen Coker weeks 11 through week 17?
I thought about letting it rip to troll Jordan, our resident Carolina Panthers fan, and going 75+% on Xavier Legette. But no, this is 0 to 5%. I think there is a better chance. Like he mentioned with Olamide Zacchaeus, like coming in and stealing the show in Atlanta. I think there's a better chance of someone else, Jimmy Horn or a freaking street free agent or something, stepping in for Xavier Legette than him outscoring Jalen. Jalen Coker is a genuinely really good NFL football player. Like exactly how good and how does he rank, amongst NFL wide receivers? We can quibble over that, but he's a really good football player. He's not leaving the field in 2 wide receiver sets, in my opinion. Darren Waller might outscore Xavier Legette now that Darren Waller is there. So like, I think there's a better chance that Xavier Legette is out of the NFL, like maybe even as soon as next year than there is he outscores Jalen Coker.
So I think that you troll Jordan better this way, because as I recall last year, I put it out on Twitter, something about who do you want to draft between Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker. And I was like a big time cokehead last year. I was drafting all the Jalen Coker. And one of the few people who responded, you should take Xavier Legette, was our resident Carolina Panthers fan, Jordan Vanek, came out and said you should draft Xavier Legette over Jalen Coker. I did have this one. I put this one in the 6 to 14 bucket, just on the lower end of that. Even as a self-proclaimed cokehead, I just like it goes back to, again, like I think the offense could be really bad. So if Xavier Legette just like outscores him in terms of touchdowns, like maybe just we're all just dumping on Jordan now. If he just outscores him in terms of touchdowns, it's also kind of a shorter time frame. But I'm pretty comfortable with 0 to 5. I'm happy leaving it 0 to 5% because I do really love. I agree.
Unless Jordan is
just a dog,
unless he's still on this Xavier Legette bandwagon.
Yeah, we'll see, Jordan. You're gonna force us to move this out of the 0 to 5%.
We can keep it there. However, I had it in the 6 to 14%. Dave Canales did give up play calling. Everything I've seen from the way the offense flows when we actually start running plays in the preseason, it looks good. It looks a lot different. I think his skill set could be better suited for this type of offense, especially with the idea that like they want to get Tet in the slot, which will make Ted a very good player, which will open things up for Leggett and probably lessen things for Coker. Like Coker's role in the slot is where he's best suited to make plays. And if we decide that we're just going to take Ted and put him there, it'll probably make Coker a less functional player for fantasy football, both of which should not be doing a whole lot because we're going to still play very slow and run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
So we're all comfortable at least with 0 to 5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it though.
No one made a convincing case to move him up.
No. Yeah. I'm cool with that. I think we got another 0 to 5% here. The boring one going to me, Xavier Thomas. I know he has some supporters out there, but I don't think he's outscoring Romo Dunze. Jordan, do you have any disagreement there?
He's a fun Thursday night showdown guy. That guy would be fantastic at $1,000 when he randomly gets a play. Like him or Cleve Raymond will be a fun thing to discuss. But yeah, no, 0%, no chance.
All right, everybody on the same page there.
Do I get Xavier Thomas plus Bears defense? Like the double dip, if the double dip Xavier Thomas plus Bears defense could maybe outscore Rome. That's about the extent of it.
All right, I'm not going to let you have the defense to go with it, so we're gonna leave 0 to 5%. I think we've got another similar one coming up here with the Bengals and Andre Yoshevas and T. Higgins. Jordan, you going to make a case for anything other than 0 to 5%?
No. This is a 0. These are pretty easy, and the next one's absolutely fascinating.
It's not yours, Jordan. So you got to let Eric.
I got to wait.
But I agree, it is fascinating. Eric, what do you think of? Do you think that Jerry Jeudy has a good shot at outscoring Denzel Boston weeks 11 through 17 this year?
A good shot, I would say no. But a 15 to 29% shot is where I put him. I don't have I like everyone don't have very much confidence left in Jerry Jeudy. I'm not sure Jerry Judy's parents have much confidence left in Jerry Jeudy in the NFL at this point, but there's not a lot of depth behind. It's obviously Casey Concepcion, Denzel Boston, and Jerry Jeudy right now as the starting wide receivers for the Browns. We're all excited about the rookies, but I don't think, despite what Ben Solak posted after going to Browns camp saying, just the endless hype of Denzel Boston, I don't think this is like some transcendent level prospect. He could absolutely kind of come out here and fall flat on his face. And similar to what you said about like the Panthers, or we talked about with the Falcons, I mean, this is not going to be a particularly high scoring offense, whether it's Watson or Shador or Taylon Green, who knows what it's going to be. I don't know if you watched their preseason game. Dylan Gabriel threw one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in my entire life, about 30 foot over the head of a wide receiver. It's just really bleak in Cleveland, and I am excited for Denzel Boston, and I'm not excited for Jerry Jeudy, but there's no guarantees that Denzel Boston is like significantly better than Jerry Jeudy. So in a small pie, can Jeudy outscore him later, and fend off Isaiah Bond and these other guys? Absolutely he can. It's an underdog, as I put it here, but I don't think it's completely unrealistic.
I had the exact same bucket. 15 to 29% feels right. Like you said, like Denzel Boston right now, like all of the camp hype is on Denzel Boston, and it's kind of like Jerry Jeudy looks washed. Like the rookies are clearly better than him. They're the top receivers here, but at the end of the day, they're rookie receivers. He has had a productive-ish NFL career. I think 15 to 29% pretty fair here, because there is a real chance that Denzel Boston, like despite all the hype right now, is not actually legitimately that much better than Jerry Jeudy.
The aforementioned Keon Coleman got this hype we're seeing about Boston and Jacoby Lane and all that. Like this is the same thing happened for someone like Keon Coleman. So it's exciting. I get excited about these rookies getting the hype too, but like the story hasn't even begun. We're in the freaking prelude or whatever, of this. Like, it is far from decided that they're good NFL players.
Jordan, how about you? Any disagreement there?
So I just want to point out that I helped recruit Dylan Gabriel to UCF, and Eric had to make that, known that he threw the worst interceptions.
I loved Dylan Gabriel at UCF. I loved it.
It was fun. And then I also went to high school with Jerry Jeudy, but I do have it in the 15 to 29% range. I actually think not going to talk more to you guys the same thing just over and over. I think Judy gets traded towards the deadline. I think that would be a case for him to actually be like in this case of like outscoring here. I think there's a lot of teams that could benefit from having him, and with the Browns in general, it's like they're trying to be young. The last bit of old that they have on that offense is Judy and Watson. They're probably going to give them some run to begin the year, and then it's just going to be Shador, and it's going to be Isaiah Bond, Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion, just so Monken can try to produce some youth on that offensive side.
Would you take him over Leggett in Carolina?
Yeah, I would. Without he's way more talented. He's not, phenomenal, but like if he was a team's number 3 receiver, just like on a good team, that would be like if he went to the Cowboys and was the 3rd receiver to CeeDee Lamb and Pickens.
I'm not hearing this. I'm not hearing this.
I love it that is the next one up.
That's the next one up, and that's one it hurts me, but that's.
I kind of wish that I made Eric do this one first, because he might have to make the case for Flournoy. I don't know if you're going to try, but no, it's a 0 to 5%. Flournoy is not going to outscore George Pickens. George Pickens is just that dude. So it sounds like Eric is not going to disagree with me on this one.
No, but I'm going to disagree with the Jerry Jeudy is not better than Ryan Flournoy. I'm not hearing it, but no, he has absolutely zero. It's one of the lowest, but he has a better chance than Yoshi does of outscoring T Higgins, but that's about it.
Yeah, this one's a 0 and it's pretty easy.
Yep.
All right, we'll move on. It is to Jordan. Pat Bryant over Cortland Sutton. What are the odds there? Weeks 11 through 17. Underdog scoring.
I feel bad that I get to take it from Eric because I'm sure he's probably higher than me, but I got in the 50 to 74% range. I think, Pat Bryant might be the number 2 receiver like from the beginning of the year. And that Sutton kind of fades a little bit just because age, he's the way that he is as a receiver, like it'll still be productive at times, but it's not going to be consistent week over week. And Pat Bryant coming from Illinois, like I really liked him in, DFS when I was playing with Illinois stacks and stuff like that. He's actually won me a decent amount of money. And I think that this year, like I probably put it closer to the 74% range, like in the, 65 to 70% chance that he does it. And I really believe he's the number 2 receiver here. I'm sure Eric probably feels the exact same way.
That's where I put it. It's that was one of my I do think you have to kind of go out on a limb, and there obviously has to be a very clear breakout from Pat Bryant and a bit of a step back from Cortland Sutton. And this is one of those I wish we had recorded before week 1 of the preseason, because Sutton did not look bad in that game for the Broncos. Neither did Pat Bryant. I just think, especially the caveat of late season, from a best ball perspective, that's important for Bryant as the season goes on. I think he can continue to grow. There was a so Kay Adams, the reporter, goes around to all of these different camps, and she's interviewing Sean Payton, and unprompted asks, so Pat Bryant, how are you going to keep him off the field? And he says, we're not. And I was like, he can play it up for the cameras a bit too, Sean Payton. But I thought it was like pretty telling that they're like, so like the days of, is it Pat Bryant or Troy Franklin, as the starter, those are long gone. He's more so competing with Cortland Sutton for snaps. And there's always a chance that Jalen Waddle doesn't, I'm excited for Jalen Waddle. He's clearly the wide receiver 1, but there's a chance that Jalen Waddle's like not just like this superstar level wide receiver 1 that like separates himself. And Pat Bryant, as the 2nd-year player, who I think was a good prospect, like elevates his game to a degree that we're like, oh man, this guy's like one of the engines of this offense that we're getting much later. And Cortland Sutton could still be good, but he doesn't have that ceiling.
I'm so mad right now. I cannot believe that I'm the low man on Pat Bryant. I put it at 30 to 49%. I'm like a big time Pat Bryant truther. I was like, for sure, I'm going to surprise you guys with how much I love Pat Bryant, like being near 50%. And you guys both have it as over 50% that he outscores Cortland Sutton. You made all the points that I was going to make about Pat Bryant, just the way they started to use him in that playoff game, on that first drive before he got out of the game. That was pretty telling for how much confidence and how
100% targets per outrun. 100% targets per outrun. Yeah, literally.
Just incredible. So we are all, I'm going to leave it in 50 to 74% because it sounds like we're all super in on Pat Bryant. Love that. Love that we're all. I mean, it'd be better, I guess, if we disagreed somewhat there. If there was someone who was like, "What are you talking about? Cortland Sutton is him," But we apparently don't have that guy on this show.
Can you bet Cortland Sutton to the Pro Bowl now? I would bet whatever you can bet on Cortland Sutton now. I would bet on that if we're
after we all agree on
Pat. If we all agree,
100%. Yeah, exactly.
I'll never forget Rico Dowdle week. I'll never forget it. We were all on Trey Anderson, I think.
I forgot about that. Yes.
Oh, sad.
Just didn't play Rico Dowdle against the Dolphins. Oh man, that's a funny time. I hated the Panthers last year. I can't wait to hate them this year.
Yeah, I look forward to hating the Panthers also. As somebody who has 40% Jonathan Brooks, I mean, I'm ready to hate the Panthers. All right, I feel like this is kind of an interesting one. The Detroit line. I mean, maybe it's not. It kind of depends on if we have any truthers out here. Jordan, you are up. What are the odds of Isaac Tesla outscoring JMO weeks 11 through 17?
I've got 0%. I don't think Tesla's a very good player. I'm just like, the way he plays is not the way Jared Goff plays football. If Matt Stafford were playing with Tesla, like I could see Tesla outscoring JMO, but with the idea that Jared Goff is a guy that needs to see people be open, I just don't think that's going to be Tesla's game, and it's just not someone that I'd bank on.
5-4.
No, and I would also add it has been a really rough training camp for Tesla. It doesn't sound like he's even locking in the starting job. Greg Dortch continues to get more, which is when it's one thing. If it reminds me of, I know we haven't gotten to it, but like Omar Cooper is getting passed by Isaiah Williams in the preseason. That's what this reminds me of. It's like, it's not like there's some shiny new toy behind you. Like you're so bad as a second-year player that they're like, we got to get Greg Dortch onto the field. That doesn't sound really good. Dan Campbell continues to be positive about him because Dan Campbell's a really good coach. But I think Tesla has a greater chance of not running routes in weeks 11 to week 17 than he does about scoring JMO. I think JMO's pretty locked in.
Yeah, I don't know why I tease that one as being interesting because I'm with you guys 0%.
But 2 months ago it might have been 2 months ago before this summer has not gone well for Tesla. So
yeah. I know some people who are super into Tesla, so I thought maybe one of you would be, but no, yeah, he's not outscoring JMO.
Those people are not raising their hands anymore. They're not going to admit to that. Yeah.
This one is actually probably more interesting than that one was. And by and for, I believe you are up. Matthew Golden versus over Jaden Reed. What are the odds weeks 11 through 17?
All right, I don't know if this is spicy. I don't know if it's overreacting to the preseason either. I also put this one in 50 to 74%. I do very much think Jaden Reed is a good football player, no doubt. And I admittedly didn't love Matthew Golden as a prospect. Year one was pretty hit or miss, but they've obviously cleaned out kind of some of the chaos in that wide receiver room and really consolidated it down to a normal wide receiver rotation. And the guy who played the most and played every single snap with Jordan Love in the preseason game was Matthew Golden. It wasn't even Christian Watson. Christian Watson only came out for one snap, no big deal. But Jaden Reed was in the slot, permanently 100% in the slot, and that doesn't mean he's going to have a bad season. It just means, there are limitations from a fantasy perspective when you only play in 11 personnel, and as good as I think Jaden Reed's a very good football player. But Matthew Golden, if we're going to tout the Pat Bryant potential breakouts, like Matthew Golden has that as well. He was a first-round pick. Pat Bryant was a third-round pick. I think maybe they both should have been second-rounders. But either way, the point still stands. Like this guy could have a major breakout run, having one of the highest route participations in the entire league. There's been much made about some deep shots last year that would have made him look really, really nice if Jordan Love would have connected with him. And they've hit on some of those in training camp. And I just think this guy's going to run a ton of routes. He's a second-year former first-round pick who, even despite the rotational nature of the Packers last year, was not bad. He was reasonably efficient. It wasn't like a disaster. This wasn't a Keon Coleman level rookie season. Like this was okay. It wasn't bad. So there's something to build upon. And now you just get a full-time route share that Jaden Reed doesn't have. And I think Jaden Reed is good. I just think we've sort of seen what Jaden Reed is as a ceiling case, and we haven't with Matthew Golden.
Yeah, maybe I was wrong when I said we should leave Rashad Bateman in the 50 to 74% because that one will be less used. We got apparently a bunch of hot take artists here on this show. I put it into 30 to 49%, but I have no issue with that. Like I can totally see the case that you're making because it is like maybe he has the better median case just because he's going to be out there more often getting kind of the short area stuff. Jaden Reed, there have been times where he's looked like a star out there, where they start using him like as a running back at times and just like trying to find ways to get him the ball. But like, yeah, in the like median case, maybe he is outscored more often and just has that like, the upside that he showed for a couple weeks, I think two or 3 years ago, where he looked awesome. Maybe I was going to say maybe he has higher upside, but a lower, but I don't even know if that's true. Yeah, I don't hate it putting Golden at a higher odds than Jaden Reed. I think I'm okay leaving it there. I don't feel strongly enough that it should be the lower tier to move it. Jordan, where are you at on this?
I wanted to have some 75+%, and this is one of them. I think Matthew Golden's a better player than Jaden Reed. Like, I think he could do more for, like, once the ball is in his hands. Yeah, Jaden Reed's a little bit better, but Jaden Reed's not a Deebo Samuel, young Deebo that's just bulldozing people. Like, he breaks tackles, but he does
baby
fouled
Deebo.
up. He gets fouled up in a lot of ways. Yeah. So for me, like, you don't like Tucker Kraft. I know he's been recovering and he might be good to go. Like with Kittle, all of a sudden wants to play week 1 and stuff. I don't think they're going to be able to rely on him early on in the season, and even in the later season. Like, I feel like it takes 2 years for guys to truly recover from those types of injuries. So I think Matthew Golden might be the number 2 receiver for Green Bay the whole season, and like they already showed that Jaden Reed is going to be coming out of the game, like no matter what. And like, this is like the Josh Downs situation where like Josh Downs always incredible, but he literally doesn't go on the field unless the other two are off the field. So I definitely take Matthew Golden over Jaden Reed, and I'm comfortable putting him in the 75%, but I know that 50 to 74% is fine with me. It's not like 100. It's just I would probably put it like 76, 78.
Yeah, I think I need more proof that Matthew Golden is good enough to hold that job. Like, to me, it's like right now they're showing that they want him to be the guy that's out there in 2 wide receiver sets, but I think he needs to prove that he can do that and hold on to that job. And Jaden Reed still has the potential to get there. So I'm comfortable with. Yeah, I think you both made really good cases.
With a slight favorite as opposed to like an overwhelming favorite. Yeah.
So I think we 50 to 74%. I'll leave him there. Moving on to
this is a fun. This is back to you. This is a fun one, and this is a fun one too.
Tank Dell versus Jaden Higgins. Where did I put this one? Okay, I put this one at. This is an interesting one. 30 to 49% for Tank Dell. This was a really tough one because I think it could be for me a tier lower. I don't think I could put it a tier higher. I think 15 to 29% could have been the tier, but I feel pretty comfortable with 30 to 49%. Tank Dell, I think it's just kind of a matter of how healthy is he. I guess there's multiple kind of factors here, because it's, first of all, how healthy is Tank Dell? Because he had a great connection with CJ Stroud when he was healthy 2-3 years ago. They look great together, but now it's been so long, and like he has not been obviously has not been playing. We don't really know how good he's going to be, how healthy he is coming into this year. Now, I know that we saw somebody tweeted out something about Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel being the wide receivers 2 and 3, and Tank Dell being the wide receiver 4. And Tank Dell responded to that with an eye roll or something like that, which I love to see that for Tank Dell's case. He's saying no, I'm ready to go. I'm going to be one of the top 3 receivers. Love to see that. We're also getting a ton of hype on Jaden Higgins. So it kind of matters, is Jaden Higgins actually going to take that step forward? Last year, the line was that he was going to be basically Nico Collins on the other side of the field, and they're just going to be on the opposite sides of the field, and they're just going to be just crushing guys together. Did not work that way at all. Xavier Hutchinson was out there instead of Jaden Higgins, which was just mind-boggling to me. But I think with all the hype, they're going to give Higgins his chances this year. So I do think that Higgins is the odds-on favorite to outscore Tank Dell. Curious here if either of you disagrees with me. Jordan, where are you at on Tank Dell versus Jaden Higgins?
I put it at the 15 to 29% personally, and it's literally because I just don't know if Tank Dell is. If you told me Tank Dell was coming off a torn ACL, just one simple injury that was no, he didn't miss football for 2 years, I would be very, very high on this type of thing because I love Tank Dell as a player. He is a dimension that with CJ Stroud doesn't have him. It's clear that CJ Stroud struggles heavily, and they wanted Jalen Noel to kind of fill that, but obviously he couldn't. So for me, 20%, and it's only because I don't think Dell is going to be fully recovered.
5-4, where are you at?
Yeah, I think I have it 30 to 49. So we'll start there. I'm not a big Jaden Higgins guy. I thought he was okay prospect, and he was okay. Like, I actually think Matthew Golden was better than him as a rookie, and people are down on Matthew Golden's rookie season. So I'm not going to get excited about Jaden Higgins' rookie season. The only concerns I have for putting it 30 to 49 is, of course, the health. I'm not going to reiterate. I mean, everybody saw he's shattered his leg twice, and he's about 160 pounds, so it's not generally not ideal for a young wide receiver. But also, he's a slot receiver. And so Nico and Higgins are going to play on the outsides, and they're going to play in 2 wide receiver sets. Nico's going to play, or Higgins, will play in single wide receiver sets. And the real problem when it comes to that is they're on the Houston Texans. And the Houston Texans have one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. DeMeco Ryans wants to run the football. They traded for David Montgomery to run the football, and Tank Dell got hurt trying to block while they ran the football. And so I don't think I can simultaneously make the case that Tank Dell's like a favorite when I did the same thing for Jaden Reed, and I don't have health concerns about Jaden Reed. So I'm pretty excited about him. I will say, as we're recording this earlier today, we got word that Jalen Knowles out for a few weeks. Like they said weeks. I don't know. That could be 2. It could be who knows how long. So I do think that has upped. That's why I feel a little bit better about 30 to 49. It has made Tank it's a cleaner path for Tank to just take over the slot job. But I don't think I can't make him a favorite as much as I would like to.
So we're all pretty close together. 30 to 2 of us have a 30 to 49%. Jordan a little bit lower because of the health concerns, which is valid. But yeah, we'll leave it at 30 to 49%. Quit being a hater, Jordan, on Jaden Higgins.
Funny, bro. The funny thing is Dell coming out. Me and Greg Jennings did a show together, and me and him had him as our wide receiver 3 in the class.
He was so good in college.
When I did the show, I was like, Greg's going to make fun of me for having this 150-pound receiver very high. And he's like, bro, nobody can guard him. I was like, what? I was like, I did not expect you to like him that much.
He was
developments.
Green Bay Packers receiver, Greg Jennings?
Greg Jennings, broken leg.
I forget the line.
Put the team on his back.
Greg Jennings. Yeah.
No, I used to. It was with the 33rd team back 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
It was a fun show. Me and him used to discuss receivers every week. It was a great time.
Dude, Tank Dell went when they had Nico, Diggs after rookie year, CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Tank Dell got up to the 3rd round of best ball drafts. We drafted Nico in the 2nd round, Tank Dell in the 3rd round, and Stephon Diggs in the 4th round on this Houston. How times have changed so quickly. And so I do think that's in there for Tank. It's just like, how likely is it after the injuries and everything that's happened with the Texans? It's not 3 years ago.
Yeah. And that's the difference between the game that we're playing here versus actually how you draft is kind of trying to find the median, as opposed to he clearly has a crazy upside, but that's not really the game that we're playing here. We're just kind of trying to guess the median. What are the odds, in general. Let's move on to the Colts. Jordan, you get this one. And this is a weird one because Alec Pierce is injured going in, and we're saying no injuries factor. So I guess let's assume that Alec Pierce gets healthier by weeks 11 through 17, I think.
I hope he's healthy by then.
Yeah. I'm not even sure if Nick Westbrook-Akine is going to be on the Colts. I've got this at 0%. It might be Doolin. It might be Deion Burks. Regardless, assuming health, obviously, then Alec Pierce, there's a 0% chance. It's obviously higher than Flournoy outscoring George Pickens, but it doesn't feel great.
You son of a bitch.
Are you
what? That's so unnecessary. Just
he's just taking shots at you. That's just a shot at you.
So unnecessary.
I almost wanted
Akine is higher.
Yeah, that is kind of ridiculous. Why? What do you just hate Ryan Flournoy, Jordan? What is
what
going
did he
on?
do
He's
to
a
you?
talented receiver.
The shots that Leggett bothered me. It's okay.
Okay, that's fair.
That's it.
I took the first swing.
That is fair. Okay, I see what's going on now.
I'm just trying to be a cokehead over here, and I can't.
What if we, instead of it seems less and less likely to happen now, but there's been speculation for the last 2 months that Keenan Allen is going to sign with the Colts.
Yeah.
That one to me would have been a lot more interesting, but it feels like they just they worked out several veteran wide receivers not named Keenan Allen, so it's looking less and less likely. So maybe it's not worth.
Didn't the head coach of the Colts was there when they drafted Allen?
I believe so.
Yeah. So if they need to call him, they could call him the week after preseason.
I've always been skeptical of the Keenan rumors, just because obviously you guys all like Keenan has made it known he did the Bears thing, but outside of that, he's a California boy and he doesn't want to now in his life. He doesn't want to leave the West Coast. It always felt like Vegas was as far east as he might go, and Indianapolis, and also like there was like Diggs Indianapolis rumors, like these like high profile veteran wide receivers who either want to ring chase or like go somewhere that they're happy. Like, look, I don't live that far away from Indianapolis. It's a great city. If you're like a diva wide receiver, that is not where you're interested.
Why would you go there?
Yeah.
All right. So let's not have the Keenan debate here because it's just probably not going to happen. All right. So then we move on to who's up?
It's gonna be Eric for the Jags.
Eric up for the Jags. Yeah, this is a fun one. Eric, what do you have the odds at for Jacoby Myers outscoring Brian Thomas weeks 11 through 17?
All right. I'll start with I put it 30-49. I think you could maybe even make a more compelling case if it was Travis Hunter. But by ADP, Jacoby Myers is wide receiver 3. And functionally, Jacoby Myers is also the wide receiver 3. The problem for the Jacoby Myers over Brian Thomas case is literally Travis Hunter. I think that you could, if they just came out and said Travis Hunter's only playing defense, like he's a corner, we need him to be a corner, and they've like sort of hinted like we need him to be more of a, not just by their words but by their actions in free agency and everything like that he needs to play corner. The problem is he is going to play some offense, and I think functionally the best way to get him out there on offense is at the expense of Jacoby Myers. Brian Thomas Jr. could be more of what we saw last year and still have a huge leg up from a fantasy perspective on Jacoby Myers. And so it's really just a Jacoby Myers problem. I'm very skittish about BTJ. I got, you know how this goes when you're a tout, right? And you put yourself out there, especially on rookie prospect stuff. I was not a huge fan of Brian Thomas Jr. Obviously he was super efficient, but on pretty low target volume for like a superstar round one wide receiver. He had who I was making the case for Malik Neighbors over Marvin Harrison as a prospect that year coming in. Like that's how high I've been on Malik Neighbors all of these years. And so I was like, his Jaden Daniels at quarterback and Malik Neighbors on the other side of the field, drawing all this cover. He's going up against the worst corner and they're single covering him. So his efficiency was great with Jaden Daniels throwing him the ball. And then his rookie year happened and you just get egg all over your face. Like, you idiot. He was obviously awesome. And then last year happens. And now you're like, so how good is Brian Thomas Jr. really? So I think there's a compelling case for Jacoby Myers or for Travis Hunter to outscore him, especially later in the season. I just think the issue is that Jacoby Myers also has problems of the wide receiver 4 outscoring him too. So it's hard to make a really compelling case for Jacoby specifically.
I think I'm in the exact same boat as you. It's funny. There was a period this year where I was kind of in on BTJ because I felt like last year was like, well, that was the product of injury. Like it appeared that he was pretty hurt last year.
It still could be.
It could be. Yeah. Like we just don't know. So I was like, I want to make that bet on a guy who was going at the 1-2 turn last year. And I become more and more skittish as the season has gone on with the Parker Washington drumbeat and, some issues. And I watched a video that somebody did about BTJ last year and how he just was like not giving full effort. I wasn't sure if it's like I've attributed it to like, well, he's dealing with this injury and he doesn't want to like take shots down the middle of the field, take shots in the middle of the field because of the shoulder injury he was dealing with or whatever, elbow. I forget.
And wrist. Right?
And wrist. Yeah. I think it was wrist and shoulder. So didn't want to take shots because of that. And now, with full health, maybe he gets back to being a better player. But I don't know. I really don't know what to do with BTJ, but I think you have it right because Jacoby Myers also is just like steady Eddie. Like he's just been like the steadiest fantasy receiver. If Brian Thomas Jr. is what he was last year, I think it's pretty likely that Jacoby Myers outscores him. But also, like you said, with Travis Hunter there, sounds like he could eat into Jacoby Myers. Like if BTJ is who he was last year, you could also see Travis Hunter eating into his workload a little bit too. So I don't know. It's kind of a throw your hands up situation, but I do think that 30-49% feels like the right range to me. Where are you at, Jordan?
I have this as a 50-50. Just because like it feels like if you told me who's going to outscore who on like each week, like the total, I think that there's a better chance that Jacoby Myers actually wins that. but it doesn't feel good. Like, I think BTJ has just the best ball upside of going for 40 compared to Jacoby's, probably 12, 13. But he also has a better chance to go for 0. So for me with BTJ, it's funny that Eric, you brought up, like, in college, like, he had Malik Neighbors working for him. I was on the other side of that. I was like, teams could just let Malik Neighbors go underneath because they had to put a safety over BTJ. It's like, then it's just everybody's good. It was just, it's just like, wait a minute, like, we did this with Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase.
Yep.
Like, oh yeah, all three are just absolutely incredible. So I feel like that analysis for me for like ever now has changed, because I'm like, fooled me once with Joe Burrow, and then it fooled me twice with this group. And I'm like, LSU, if they have two good receivers like that and a good quarterback, they're just going to be great. I don't care.
There is no upside. There is no upside in taking a stand against it. I've learned very quickly.
It's so bad. But no, with BTJ, I mean, watching him in the way that they wanted to use him, that wrist injury is significant, because he, like, jamming and stuff like that, he can't use his hands. And then obviously when he was going to catch the football, I was like, brother, you are not capable. He's just a very boom bust player with that offense because of the way they're going to use him. I do think he's going to be much better this year, and he's a fun player for best ball, but you better be like looking at Lawrence and honestly one of Parker Washington Myers. Like, I don't feel comfortable taking Brian Thomas as just like, oh, this solo receiver. Like, he's not going to be dependable. He's going to give you 30-point weeks, but as well as some zeros.
All right, so we have two of us in the 30 to 49%. I have no real issue with the 50-50, but we'll just here, I think, covers it well enough, the range of outcomes here. Okay, so now it is me, and this is one I struggle with a little bit. Cyrus Allen and Xavier Worthy. I put it in the 6 to 14% bucket. I think Xavier Worthy, and we are assuming no injury, so we're assuming a healthy Xavier Worthy. I still think 6 to 14% is fair. I think Xavier Worthy has not been like an awesome NFL receiver. I think he's shown flashes here and there. They love his speed. They can find ways to get him the ball. So I think that he is the odds-on favorite. But Cyrus Allen is, pretty hyped up right now. Maybe he's a better NFL receiver. I think there is some chance of that he is a better NFL receiver, and that he proves that by weeks 11 through 17. So I had it as 6 to 14% that Cyrus Allen outscores Xavier Worthy, even as somebody who's pretty in on Xavier Worthy this year in best ball. I think that it is possible. I'm curious if either of you has it even higher, or are you guys 0 to 5%? Jordan, where are you at on this?
I originally was taking into account that Xavier Worthy is hurt, and I remembered clearly that that's against the rules.
We turned injuries off.
I was like, I would probably put this like 15% flat. So 6 to 14% is fine. I don't like Allen's skill set. And, speaking of gambling, men, if, he played with Sorsby this past year, but his skill set for the slot and
Sorsby was playing the confidence game every weekend.
He was betting on pitch speed, a bunch of others. But anyways, Cyrus Allen, like, his skill set's a slot player that's, PPR type of guy. So, like, that's very good. But, like, for best ball purposes, we hope he can go run downfield. And, like, if you've seen the videos of Rashee Rice, I don't think they can just do the thing where they've been just throwing it to him off the line of scrimmage anymore. So I think they're going to need some upside. That's why I put Cyrus in the 15 to 29%, because they might need him to do a little bit of what Rashee Rice is doing, because, Rashee Rice looks big and he looks slow. I don't know if that will continue, but this Kansas City Chiefs passing game is just a nightmare to keep playing. It feels like Russian roulette every year.
It really does. Eric, where are you at on Cyrus Allen and Xavier Worthy?
Russian roulette is a dark metaphor for Rashee Rice type situation. But I actually had 15 to 29%. The issue for me is I kind of think both of these guys are probably not that good at football. I understand there's like a crazy hype train on Cyrus Allen, but fool me once, fool me 17 times on Chiefs training camp hype. He did look good in the preseason game. I do think there's potential that he was a little bit better than his college metrics and everything. He was just so like the most mediocre college player you've ever seen. But I think it's just genuinely possible that Xavier Worthy's not a very good football player. and the Rashee Rice thing is a good point. I still trust that he'll be fine. Like, as the guy was in jail for a month of the off season while rehabbing a knee injury. It's understandable why he's slow to recover. So I do think Cyrus Allen could sort of pick up some of that like low A dot run and catch type stuff that Rasheed does that Xavier Worthy can't really do. So I just we're splitting hairs, 15 to 29. It's somewhere down here towards the bottom, but it's more of an indictment on Xavier Worthy than it is like super duper buying the Cyrus Allen hype.
All right, you guys both have it in the 15 to 29%. I'll move it up there because I don't feel that strongly. It's kind of right around that 15% range, I think, for all of us. So we'll leave it there and move on to Jordan with Jack Besh and Trey Tucker of the Raiders. Where are you at on this one?
If you got me before this preseason weekend, I was in the 50 to 74% range, which obviously is really high. After watching him in preseason and just thinking of the concept that I think Kirk Cousins is going to be the starter full season, I do not think we see Mendoza, just because with Brady in the building and the way that it's totally cool to let him sit for the year. Like, they don't need to. And again, if it's really, really bad, I could see him turning into it, but I do believe that Cousins will be a starter for a while. I don't think Cousins can throw downfield to Trey Tucker. So, like, I look at Jalen Naylor too, and I'm like, I don't know if that will work too. Like, I think Jack Besh might be the number one receiver on the Raiders of the receiving room. Obviously, Genty and Bowers are going to be the complete dominant earners and touches, but I think Besh could be the number one receiver in this room. I think he could be their best red zone guy too. Like, this guy played tight end at first in college at LSU. People forget that he was that style of player. Then he transfers to TCU and they go 4 wide, and he's like this hybrid receiver tight end. And if you played college football fantasy, they allowed you to put him at tight end while he was playing receiver full time, which was an absolute cheat code. But I think Besh has a chance to be the number one receiver, and I'd put him in the 75 plus tier after seeing what the offense looked like this weekend.
Wow, 75% plus.
I think he could be the one. Like, it wouldn't shock me if he's better than Jalen Naylor. I know you're Vikings, you gotta love your guy, but
I don't draft a ton of Jalen Naylor, so I have no issue with Jack Besh being number one, I guess. But 75% feels like quite confident to me. I would have it. I think a bit lower.
How many 75% do you guys have? You don't tell me like I'm just genuinely curious because I have one, so I'm holding that to a high bar. Basically, is what that's why I'm curious.
I mean, Golden was my first one. I had 3.
Okay.
Because I wanted to be, the guy that's contrarian. That's what you have to do. This is what the whole business is about.
If you gave me Michael Mayer, versus these two slapdicks, I think I would just I would put it in 75%. I just don't feel like flag planting Jack Besh against anyone.
Besh, you're gonna flag plant Jack Besh.
Well, hold on. All right, this is a gross room. I do think that Bowers is their number one.
75% is like,
think about Kirk Cousins throwing the ball to Trey Tucker. Can you picture it? Because I can't. I don't see it.
I have a counter to the Kirk Cousins thing. I'm not arguing with you.
That's fine.
Can I read you the Raiders schedule? I have here's a 75% prediction of when Fernando Mendoza comes in.
Okay.
Comes in to be the starter. All right, here's the Raiders schedule. Miami week 1, okay, dub, right? Easy peasy. Go to the Chargers in week 2, L. At New Orleans in week 3. Coin flip, maybe it's a pick 'em.
Probably fair
minus 1.5 or something like that. The Chiefs at New England, the Bills, the Rams. That's the first 7 games. There's not a lot of wins in those first 7 games. I mean, they could pull one out. They could, of course, beat the Saints, right? They could technically beat the Chargers, though. The Chargers are up next. I'm really high on the Chargers. And then in week 8, they play the Jets, and I'm just like, they're just this like, you get through Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald and the Rams. You lose by 30, right? Kirk Cousins gets his brain beat in by that pass rush, and you're like, now we got the Jets. We're 2-5. Let's put Mendoza in there or something, So this is a very hyper specific prediction, but I think somewhere mid season is when you get Mendoza, and so I'm a little bit higher on and I'm not high on Trey Tucker and Jalen Naylor, but I'm a little bit higher than you are.
No, well, again, if you told me that Mendoza is this guy for the 11 to 17. I would come all the way down to 30 to 49%, or even lower to 29, like the 25 to 30. So
30 to
that's
40.
like, I'm assuming Kirk Cousins is the starter for the full season. And with him, like during those first 8 weeks, I know we're playing 11 to 17. I think that Jack Bech outscores the two of them.
All right, so I guess I am the final to give my take. I did not do so. This is as far as I got in terms of ranking them ahead of time. I did not get to the Raiders as I was setting up the board and stuff.
Love it.
I think 75% is like that. We don't need to be flag planting Jack Bech. That is ridiculous.
Why not, dude?
This is the first episode of this show. We're not going out with the
we're not
as our flag
Jack
plant. Okay.
I have 0 in the 75% plus range. I'm sad because if I had to guess, I'm guessing that the person that Eric puts there is going to be somebody that I have a ton of the wide receiver too. So that's going to be really sad for me when he puts a player that I love as lower than 25% chance to outscore the wide receiver too. No, but let's stick here. We're not putting Jack Bech in the 75% plus. I would prefer to move him down to the 30 to 49%.
That's fine.
Eric, what are we doing? 30 to 49, 50 to 74.
I had 30 to 40. I had 30. So I don't think you're wrong about the general bull case for Jack Bech or the bear case for Trey Tucker and Jalen Nailor. I just think that's a very strong stance for a Jack Bech, who I don't think is all that good. He, like you said, he was a backup tight end on those Jaden Daniels Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. teams
with Mason Taylor as a starter. But so just so I'm also getting this out, we're discussing points per game here. Probably 6 to 9 between these two receivers at best.
The margin, that's true.
Like this, so like again, 75% wasn't like I love Jack Bech, draft him in all formats. It's like these guys are so close in point total.
Yeah, he might score 7.5 fantasy points per game.
The leader in this.
That does sound like a great 18th round pick though. If he does,
that's true.
I mean, if he gets you 8 every week in the playoffs, I don't think you're winning Best Ball Mania. You know,
right?
Sure. All right, we're doing 30 to 49% for Jack Bech. I feel like that's a good middle ground.
Okay.
Love that we got Jordan's hot take in there. I'm so glad that you went first so that we didn't give our measured takes.
Agreed.
And then you just got the hot take right out there. But we will move on to Eric is up next to do Trey Harris and Quentin Johnston. And this is, I'll let you take it away. Eric, what do you think the odds are that Trey Harris can outscore Quentin Johnston 11 through 17?
Yeah, for anybody that knows me, they know that I'm not a big QJ guy, and I am a raving Trey Harris fan. I understand rookie season was a little bit disappointing, but I actually found it to be pretty bullish given the fact, you mentioned Keenan Allen before. They had Ladd, they had QJ, and they had Keenan Allen. And by the end of the season, Trey Harris was still, not getting meaningful targets, but getting meaningful. He had earned a real role on a playoff team as a rookie with those guys there. And so in doing some things specifically as a rookie that I'm not saying he couldn't do those in college, but going out there and being kind of this physical, also run block. He played a little bit of a Mac Hollins role as a rookie, which is kind of funny. That's more of a trusted veteran role that he earned as a rookie. And now you bring in Mike McDaniel, who I think this is an incredible fit for Trey Harris and not the world's best fit for QJ. And so I am Trey Harris was one of my favorite wide receiver prospects, point per dollar, however you would like to classify it, right? And he wasn't my wide receiver 1 in the class, but he was one of my favorite wide receiver prospects over the last few years. I understand Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, sort of hack production for some of these guys. It can be a little Tennessee-esque in that regard, but Trey Harris was one of the most efficient wide receivers in college football over the last 20 years, full stop. He can do a little bit of everything. He's good with the football in his hands, run after catch. He's good down the field. And I think in year 2, you're going to see a step forward. Mike McDaniel hypes up everyone. He's the world's greatest hype man. Everyone who plays for him, he gets excited about, but he's been specifically pretty excited about Trey Harris and talked about how he loved him coming into college as well. He wanted him in Miami. And so I think QJ is a little bit fraudulent, and I'm happy to bet against him. I put Trey Harris in the 50 to 74%. I think it reminds me of the Pat Bryant Sutton thing, except Sutton's probably even better than Quentin Johnston is, I think. So I feel really excited for Trey Harris and betting against QJ.
For a second there, I thought you were going to put him in the 75%. I thought, okay, no. my guys are safe, but no, 50 to 74%. I have no real issue. I think I probably would have put it in the 30 to 49% range for Trey Harris over QJ. I have seen that prediction come out of, I think, from beat writers that Trey Harris would outscore
Mm-hmm.
QJ this year. I have not drafted a ton of QJ, and I have drafted a lot of Trey Harris because of where they go in drafts. QJ just got way steamed up, and I'm like, I can't be doing that.
And he's in the 70s. He's like in the 70s of ADP. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's really, really tough to get there. I think people are making the bet that Mike McDaniel will be good for QJ, and that he's going to figure out exactly how to use him on crossers, and he's going to be doing all this interesting stuff and just like get him open, get the ball in his hand. But it's tough for me to see him having a huge season. So I am hopeful that Trey Harris does outscore QJ. I probably would put it closer to the 30 to 49% range, but I'm happy to leave it here if you are okay with it. Jordan, where are you at on this?
So I had Trey Harris in the 30 to 49% range. I don't really hate the 50 and above. I said 35%, which is similar to QJ's drop percentage, because that was where that's where I think that QJ is as a player. I've never been a fan of QJ, but with Mike McDaniel's offense, I'm interested to see how it plays out, because you mentioned Lane Kiffin's gimmicky stuff. They could do that with Trey Harris. Like, they could motion with Ladd or QJ away from Trey Harris and let the safety rotate that way and allow Trey Harris to work in those one-on-ones out in the perimeter. And I mean, with Justin Herbert, the offensive line is healthy. They should be able to have time for him to run any double moves or just running those comebacks and stuff like that he did so well in college. And, in their division, contested catches against the Broncos and stuff will be super important. And for this case study, Trey Harris has all the upside to be a higher rated receiver. It's just tough when Mike McDaniel's comparing QJ to Julio Jones in some comments and then saying everybody's going to get the ball and all the nonsense. So we'll have to see this play out once the regular season starts.
Yeah, I guess we're all pretty comfortable leaving it in that 50 to 74%. I think both Jordan and I would have had it, a little bit lower, but let's just leave it there. It's a fun take, and
it's definitely my spicy, very pro Trey Harris take. But
if you're drafting best ball and underdog, what this is telling me is you should not be drafting QJ, and you should be drafting Trey Harris, because he goes way later than QJ on underdog, which I think is kind of what all of us are doing. So so that works out if this is correct. All right, it is to me, and it's a pretty easy one for me. Jordan Whittington has a 0% chance of outscoring Devontae Adams in the playoff weeks. Is anybody going to disagree with me on that?
No, I just thought of the Big Daddy scene where they're teaching the delivery guy Rob Schneider to how to read, and he gets mad at the baby or the child, and he's like, "Damn you give him all the easy ones, and we just had all these hard ones in a row." And Neil gets Devontae Adams against Jordan Whittington.
I think that is probably the easiest one on the board. There are some that are kind of close, but I think this is the easiest. We can move right along to we're going back to Buying For, and you get one of the more difficult ones, I'd say. Chris Bell and Caleb Douglas. I know Chris Bell was the higher prospect, but comes in with an injury, so I guess we're assuming that he's playing in those later weeks. I don't know how you even break this one down with the injury caveat. Buying For, I'll let you figure it out. What are you doing with Chris Bell versus Caleb Douglas?
I assumed Chris Bell is playing. It does sound, the very recent reports, to be actionable, I guess, for best ball drafters. He's getting closer to being what does that mean? He could still start on PUP, but if he starts on PUP, that doesn't really impact what we're talking about here. We're talking about the late season stuff. However, this is very difficult, because I definitely like Chris Bell better as a prospect than Caleb Douglas. It's hard to understand why they took Caleb Douglas in the third round. Even if they liked him, they could have got him later, I think. But it's also hard to have this conversation after week one of the preseason, where Caleb Douglas looked much better than I thought he would. He also is operating as a starter, and I think that's notable. I'm not getting out over my skis on Caleb Douglas is him all of a sudden, but I think the fact that he's earned that job, over a bunch of journeyman, not very good veterans, but still coming out and beating out. They've drafted multiple other rookies, by the way, but coming out and, beating out Tutu, and Jalen Tolbert started as well. But Caleb Douglas is really more of a focal point of the offense, seems to have a connection with Malik Willis. I do still think Chris Bell is a more fantasy friendly profile, but sort of given how camp has shaken out, and Caleb Douglas was had more draft capital, similar to the Jacoby Lane, like Elijah Surratt type stuff. I kind of like Surratt a little bit better, but camp is shaking out in favor of the draft capital. I put it in 15 to 29. Just I know we're assuming health, but like I kind of didn't assume like I didn't like ignore the fact that he tore his ACL last year. You know, I assumed he's healthy by then, but I that doesn't mean it's kind of like Tank Dell. I can't assume he's like full go Chris Bell for sure. I'm excited for Chris Bell, but I think the sort of hype is dwindling on him being better than Caleb Douglas late season now as camp has gone on.
I think you took the correct approach of assuming like, yeah, we're assuming no injury keeping him out, but like he's probably still going to be recovering and like he missed all of camp and stuff. So you can't like completely throw out the fact that he is injured. I think that seems like a fair range, 15 to 29%. Also, I do want to note for anybody who's watching, you may have noticed that we flipped around on screen. We had some technical difficulties and got a little bit of out of order. Should have been Jordan's for that last one. We're going to keep going just like this. We'll let Jordan go next and go the other direction instead going forward. But yeah, I think I'm totally fine with 15 to 29% there. Jordan, where are you at on the Dolphins?
I'm in the 6 to 14%, and not because of necessarily the injury. It's with all the missed time, how much it takes to learn an NFL offense and to truly be involved is like it's a significant learning curve. And I know the field and everybody did not like Caleb Douglas when the Dolphins drafted him. It was like, what are you guys doing? If you know the GM of the Dolphins and you know his father's one of the greatest receivers coaches ever, like to ever be in the NFL, and he's helped train some of the best. And like you then watch Caleb Douglas in preseason, you're like, okay, he's big, he's fast. Oh, that's a sick one-handed catch. Like I just think that the Dolphins are in a spot where their receiver, the way they prospect players and what the plan is, I think will work. And I know everybody's like, this is the worst roster ever invented, but that's because of the way they feel about Caleb Douglas and the way they feel about Malik Willis. I actually think the Dolphins will be a productive offense, especially running the ball, and the way that like the preseason game, first drive of the game, Achane got like 8 touches or something crazy, like 6 or so, whatever it was. And then you watch Caleb Douglas like kind of win in ways, and you're like, wait, they just might run the ball and live off play action. Like, yeah, they're not going to beat the Broncos or any elite defense, but they play the Jets twice. We've seen the Bills get absolutely gutted how many years in a row in the run game? Oh, yeah, and last year's Dolphins team boat raced the Bills in one of the games out of nowhere. So people are very down on the Dolphins. I think the Caleb Douglas will actually be a functional player. And Chris Bell, I think, I don't know how much he plays. I have a weird feeling he might not play this year.
I think he can take Jalen Tolbert's job, though. Like in late season, they're still not going to be good, and so that doesn't mean he's going to outscore Caleb Douglas. I just think there is a runway for opportunity, just because he doesn't have to beat out Caleb Douglas for routes. He has to beat out Jalen Tolbert and Tutu Atwell and stuff. So, yeah.
I don't have a strong take here. I think that we have it. I think that's the conversation. It's 6 to 14% versus 15 to 29%. I don't think it's 0%, but I don't think it's an extremely high number. I do think, like you said, he's going to be still learning the offense. I think we'll leave it where it is. But yeah, I think that is the correct range. Now, Jordan, I'll go to you, and this is an interesting one: Jauan Jennings versus Jordan Addison. Or maybe you think it's interesting, maybe you don't. Where are you at on Jennings versus Addison?
I put this in the 15 to 29% range. Like we have, Kyler Murray comes over. You guys get Frank Smith into the run game. So like you're going to see a lot more heavy personnel, I think. Like I know Kevin O'Connell's been this guy that absolutely lives in 11. But like you also have Josh Oliver and TJ Hawkinson. And like Jauan Jennings is a really good blocker. And I think that he'll, get on the field occasionally more than what we're used to for Jordan Addison. Both guys are fighting for money on this team. So it'll be really tough. But I still think like 20% chance that Jauan Jennings outscores him. We've seen Jauan Jennings go for 40 at times, usually due to injury, but he's still a very talented player. He could be on the field a little bit more, but Addison is still the better receiver.
Eric, what do you think?
Are we going, or did we change direction? So now you go and we're going back down, or did we?
Let's get back to the
on track. Okay, back on track. Okay, got it. I had 30 to 49. I'm a bit of just a Jordan Addison hater, admittedly. and I'm kind of a Juwan guy, so I admit full bias. It's a little bit similar to the Trey Harris QJ thing. It's not that QJ's bad. It's not that Addison's bad. It's just I'm a little lower than consensus on those guys. Like I think some of Addison's sort of, I mean, look, he did win the Biletnikoff. I think it was like kind of a, it's kind of like Travis Hunter won the Heisman when there was no other good Heisman candidates, and he played both ways, so he wins the Heisman. Addison won the Biletnikoff, and there were no like real true superstar wide receivers in that class. And then he's put up a few big games in his career. He's certainly not a bad receiver. He's kind of a knucklehead in the the Rashee Rice category of wide receivers. But he's also put up some of his big games like without Justin Jefferson. And I know we shouldn't do this, but like it reminds me of the Jordan Love just missed Matthew Golden on some big plays. He's had a couple of his biggest plays of his entire career, like bounce off the helmet of a defensive back into his hands and ran free for a 70-yard touchdown. And I can't shake those things from my head. And I when I watch him, I don't see anything like truly special. Whereas you mentioned Jordan like going into more heavy personnel, and I think Juwan is a really good fit. I think Juwan is also a better fit for Kyler Murray than Jordan Addison is. And no one's a good fit for JJ McCarthy. So, who we'll see. But I just think it's sort of a fit thing from a scheme perspective. And he is that veteran wide receiver that you're just like, wait, why is that? Why did Addison have 60% route participation this week? And you're like, oh yeah, Juwan's out there in all the 12 personnel stuff because they're leaning more into this run scheme. They're hiding Kyler Murray a little bit. They're trusting the defense with Brian Flores, and it's like Juwan is the guy I think who fits sort of that mold. Obviously, that's not the season doesn't have to play out that way, but that's sort of where my brain is at. That I'm a little higher on Juwan.
That's interesting. So I definitely would have had it 15 to 29%. I think Addison is talented. I guess I see it different than you from that perspective. I think Addison has been he's like surprised people every year. I feel like every year the fantasy football community is like, okay, Jordan Addison, it was kind of fluky. He's not going to do it again. And then he does it again, of course, until last year, I guess, with JJ McCarthy.
Well, nobody did last year.
Yeah, the Vikings were just terrible last year. That wasn't his. Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson.
That wasn't his
fault.
But I do I do see your point of like Kyler Murray is a different quarterback than Jordan Addison has played with, and they might not be the best fit. So that is sort of interesting. I don't think I want to move it up to 30 to 40, 49% just because I do think Jordan Addison is too talented. I'm almost open to it because you make a compelling case with maybe it's not the best fit of Kyler with Jordan Addison. But I think, Jordan had it at 15 to 29%. I think that's about where I have it too. So I think we can leave it at that.
Get wrecked,
with Jordan Addison.
Get wrecked.
All right, Eric, I will give it back to you with an interesting one since we're going in this order, and then I'll take the super easy one. So this is going great for me since I love hosting because then I just get to make these decisions.
Just change the order whenever to align for exactly. You get all the easy ones.
You can take the Giants. I promise.
This is kind of perfect for me. Eric, Kayshon Boutte versus Romeo Doubs. What are the odds of Kayshon Boutte outscoring Romeo Doubs weeks 11 through 17?
I have 15 to 29%. I could be there's just a weird wrinkle with the Kayshon Boutte stuff because like how much do we factor in a potential trade that I think is genuinely possible? Like, I know that that's like not really the essence of what we're trying to do, but from an actionable like fantasy football, best ball draft perspective, it is important to be like, okay, there is a whatever, right? Like, so if we're doing confidence game on Kayshon Boutte trades, that's maybe in the 15 to 29% as well or something, right? So I'm like, okay, 15% of the time, Kayshon Boutte just outscores Romeo Doubs because he's this same old Kayshon Boutte sacrificial X, role that he's been playing. And Drake, he is like, I said it with Karina a few weeks ago. He's like the Jamar Chase of Jalen Guyton's. Is what Kayshon Boutte is. It's like he's nothing but a sacrificial X, except Drake May really trusts him, and he's actually kind of good at the down the field stuff and contested catches. So I'm not convinced that Romeo Doubs is really anything special. And so they did try to showcase some Kayshon Boutte during camp. I don't know how much of it is for trade or whatever. Doubs is for sure a starter right now, and Boutte's essentially the wide receiver 3.5. I wouldn't call him the wide receiver 4, but the 3.5 alongside Pop as the slot guy. It's just like there is a trade outcome here where you're like, whoa, Boutte takes that. We're talking about Nick Westbrook Akine. You're like the Colts trade for Kayshon Boutte, and it's like, well, yeah, now give me Kayshon Boutte over Romeo Doubs. So I know that's a little bit of a cop-out, but I do think it's a very difficult one to sort of map out because I can't say for certain that Kayshon Boutte's even going to be on the Patriots.
I think you can. I'll allow it. The considering a potential trade, I think that's because like you said, that is actionable for fantasy football. Ultimately, that's what we're doing. And that is an out that it's hard to account for, but assuming that everybody's playing, I think that's a good argument that he could be traded, and that kind of ups the number a little bit. Jordan, where are you at on Kayshon Boutte and Romeo Doubs?
First thought in my head is why is nobody wanting to trade for Ryan Florna, I guess. But going to Boutte
because he's off the table. They don't even answer the phone, brother, when they call.
I got 6 to 14%. I wasn't factoring in a trade. I just kind of think even as I know the sacrificial X, he is talent. He showed a little bit with May. So I gave it 10% chance that he could outscore Dobbs. And I'm with Eric in the sense that I'm not sure how great Dobbs is. They decided to pay him like he was a wide receiver, low end wide receiver too, because that's what that money means nowadays. But he could be a guy that definitely gets on the moves, or he could be just rotting away on the roster, kind of like what Jawan Jennings went through with the 49ers. And then if one of these guys get hurt, then all of a sudden he has some spike weeks in there, which is where that 10% outcome comes in.
Okay. Yeah. I think I like your thought process of including the potential trade, Eric. And Jordan didn't factor that in. So let's leave it in the 15 to 29.
Yeah, like a 10% boost. 6 to 14 normal, a 10% boost for a trade or something like that.
Because what if he goes to honestly, what if he went to the Cowboys? That would suck.
God damn it. Next.
Let's move on to okay, so now it's on me, and I have the really difficult Devon Vele versus Jordan Tyson. We do have Jordan Tyson. I guess that you could almost say that it opens it up with Jordan Tyson dealing with the hamstring. Maybe he's not coming back until just before week 11, and he's a rookie and hasn't learned the offense, but he's talented enough. I'm still going to put it at 0 to 5%. I'm not a big believer in Vele's talent, and I think Jordan Tyson is going to be really good when he plays in the NFL. So I'm going to put this one at 0 to 5%. But if anybody wants to make the case of he's a rookie coming back late in the year, maybe he's just not going to be a sure thing yet. Jordan, shaking your head. Eric, are you 0 to 5% also?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Jordan Tyson rocks. If you're concerned about drafting him right now because of the injury, that's completely reasonable. But that has nothing to do with Devon Vele outscoring him in 4 months.
Right. Especially when we're assuming that they're going to be playing at least, not still out with an injury. All right. Well, then we can move on to Darnell Mooney over Malachi Fields. What do we think the odds are that Darnell Mooney outscores Malachi Fields? Jordan, you start this one.
This is similar to when, Eric was out there saying, how confident am I in this take that I'm about to give? I'm not confident at all in the take that I'm about to have out there, especially after this weekend where he just decided to catch a touchdown out of nowhere from Jackson Dart while Jackson Dart was getting looked at and questioning why there's rules in the NFL about injuries.
One of the greatest.
He's rolling on the floor, in pain, kind of looks concussed. And they're like, why do they keep putting me in the tent?
A guy who gets concussed every week, not understanding why he's going to the tent, is the greatest own goal I've ever heard in my entire life.
I had 30 to 49%, which definitely feels very high. 35% is where I truly feel. I've watched a lot of Malachi Fields when he was at Virginia, when he was at Notre Dame. Is he a contested catch guy that can catch, some touchdowns? Sure. Is that going to work in the NFL? Not against every team. Darnell Mooney, I've always liked. I've definitely been one of those guys that he gets open. He can do stuff. 2 years ago with the Falcons, I feel like he went for 800, 900 yards. Maybe I'm off base on that, but I remember that Buccaneers game that was 50 to 60, it felt like, and went into overtime, and Mooney and Drake London and Cordero Hodge ended it. But for me, just in this game, I don't really think either of them are going to be a great factor with a Matt Nagy and Greg Roman and what they have going on that offensive side of the ball. But for fantasy in weeks 11 to 17, I do think Mooney can outscore Fields.
Okay, 30 to 49%. Eric, do you see it any differently?
Yeah, that's where I had it, and it reminds me of the Falcons stuff. I'm not excited about either of those guys. I understand Malachi Fields has caught a touchdown in a preseason game, like Jordan said. I didn't like him as a prospect either. It's more of I do think the rookie will probably get a longer leash to get a chance. So I think he should be the favorite, but I don't think he's good enough to be like I don't think Malachi Fields deserves like 6 to 14% either. So I think somewhere in this middle, one of these middle ranges is right.
Yeah, I am right there with both of you, so we can leave it right there. And now we enter the range from me where I'm terrified to hear Eric say that he has one of these vets outscoring the rookie over 75% of the time, because I have drafted a good amount of both of these vets too, but also I'm way over the field on both Omar Cooper and Dontavian Wicks, who are the next two up. We're going to start with the Jets, Adonai Mitchell versus Omar Cooper. Eric, what do you have the odds of Adonai Mitchell outscoring Omar Cooper weeks 11 through 17?
This pains me. I'm an Omar guy. It's not going well. It's not going well. When you lose your job, I know the caveat of this is the weeks 11 to 17. Aaron Glenn may not be the coach by then. Your Omar Cooper shares are not dead, but this has gone about as poorly as one can hope. And AD Mitchell is not in the Darnell Mooney, Jahan Dotson class. Like, he can play a little bit, and he seems to be shining at camp. And so you already had small concerns about, like, is Omar just going to be a slot receiver, similar to like the Jaden Reed route participation stuff we talked about earlier. Like, AD Mitchell doesn't have those concerns. I have it 75%, and it pains me to do that, because like I said, I really like Omar, but it is what it is, man. That's how camp is playing out. The guy's playing deep into the first preseason game, and Isaiah Williams has taken his job during camp. So it's not missing camp, right? But it's a really hard thing to recover from. And this isn't a situation where this isn't Devon Bailey. This isn't Darnell Mooney. This is a guy who can play a little bit. So it's a really big uphill climb for Omar at this point to beat out Mitchell, I think.
The one thing I will say is, I think it was who was it? Somebody put out a list of like players, rookies, second round rookies who have played this deep into a game, and like it was
Kyle
a short
Dvorak
list.
said it.
Dvorak put it out there. List of second round rookies that have played this deep.
First round picks.
First round. Oh, he's a first round pick. My bad. Yeah. Kyle Dvorak put out a list of first round picks that have played this deep into a preseason game. The list wasn't that bad though. So it was like, it's a really short list. You don't put out a ton of, or maybe put out a second list that included second rounders. I forget, but one of the lists he put out did not look that terrible. Like, there were some big hits there. There are also just some terrible misses there. As somebody who has a ton of Omar Cooper, and like, I never loved doing it because he's on the Jets, and I was like, man, what is the upside here? But it felt like at least safe. Like, he's at least going to be the starting slot receiver.
He's a first round pick.
And now he's playing with the backups. It feels bad, but I think you're right. I think 75%. And AD Mitchell, like you said, can play. Like, the Jets were like excited to have him last year. They were featuring him with Garrett Wilson out toward the end of the year last year. I do think that he has some talent. So unfortunately, I do think that this is probably the right range for him. I think I'm with you on AD Mitchell outscoring Omar Cooper most of the time. I think 75% plus is probably right. Jordan, do you see it differently?
No, I think Omar Cooper's on his fast track to being Jalen Polk. Like, I do not think he's a good player. I didn't think he was a good player in college. I thought he was clearly the third best receiver at best on Indiana. I actually thought their other slot receiver,
Charlie Becker, is a superstar, brother.
He's very good. And I thought Elijah Surratt was better. Like, Surratt's just different. He's not fun for NFL, but regardless, I was never an Omar Cooper guy. And like, AD Mitchell, he just opened up on the pivot about his time with the Colts, and like, you hear the drop he had last year against the Rams, and he's like, I had to like keep myself alive because people weren't breathing life into me. And it's kind of like, what's going on over there with Reggie Wayne in the receiver room? Like, I know it was a bad drop. It was a regular season game. You were playing an extremely good opponent, but it wasn't, the Super Bowl. Like, when nobody's checking in on a guy like that, that's, a super young kid that had to earn his way onto the field, that you guys drafted into a crowded room. I think he's going to be pretty good this year with the Jets, with Geno. It's not pretty with Frank Reich, but I do think he actually has like some viability and some explosiveness. And I know Geno was terrible last year, but the Raiders as a whole was absolutely awful from top to bottom. Not that the Jets are any better, but I can at least say with the Jets, like, I like their offensive line. I don't like Frank Wright, but I like their offensive line, and I like the receivers that are on this team. And I think AD is, clearly going to start on the boundary and be the downfield threat for this roster. And Geno can still throw that occasionally. It's not pretty, but it's at least viable in this format.
So painful that we are all on the same page that it's just like, yeah, AD Mitchell probably going to outscore. And I've drafted a fair amount of AD Mitchell too. So, it's not the end of the world for me if this happens.
It's also not over for Omar. Like, he is a rookie on a bad team he's by weeks 11 to 17, like, he's also probably going to be like, there's no reason to play Isaiah Williams when you have one win or whatever.
There's no reason to play Isaiah Williams in general. Like, if they were playing like Sadiq in the slot or something like that with Mason, like both of them over him, I would have been like, okay, that's
speaking of coffins, Sadiq's gonna miss the whole summer too. What a mess. What a mess for the Jets.
Huge mess for the Jets. This next situation feels almost similar to me. Not as bad, but dealing with injury. Mekhi Lemon's been dealing with a hamstring injury, so not being able to practice right now. But I've drafted a ton of Mekhi Lemon, again, just kind of assuming that he is going to be on the field in the slot, from the beginning for the Eagles. This injury does have me a little bit scared, but not enough that, like, this is clearly not, to me, a 75% plus that Dontavian Wicks outscores Mekhi Lemon. As high as I am on Wicks, and there are people who believe that Wicks is going to be the wide receiver 2 here. I'm not there. I'm going to put it at certainly under 50%. I think it's just 30 to 49. Like, I don't think I can go as low as 15 to 29%. It's between 15 to 29 and 30 to 49% for me. I am going to put it at 30 to 49% just because it worries me when a rookie is injured coming into the year and not going to have time to acclimate and stuff. I'm putting it at 30 to 49% and hoping that the number is actually lower. Jordan, how do you feel about this number?
It's funny, like, Mekhi Lemon going into this draft was my number one receiver. Dontavian Wicks has been a guy that I've loved at Virginia. I had him very, very high, so it feels like, fortunately, I'm battling with like the two children. Who do I like more? And it's like Mekhi Lemon's injuries and stuff are annoying, but more importantly, like Jalen Hurts. Like, I'm just terrified that you just couldn't get a worse combination for quarterback and receiver and I had to watch it with Devonta Smith, I feel like, the last 2 years, and Devonta's better than Lemon as a prospect, but Mekhi Lemon wins over the middle, and that's just not where Jalen Hurts wants to throw the football. So the stylistic fit scares me, but I do think 30 to 49% is a fair range with factoring in how much time Lemon has missed and that he is currently injured. And Wicks is getting all the praise, but it's like, Wicks does look like that on a football field. It's just when the ball gets to his hands, where does it go? Does it go to the ground, or does it actually stay with him? Like, if Wicks could catch every football,
DB. It goes to the DB, brother.
If Wicks could catch the football consistently, he'd probably be a high-paid receiver on the Packers right now. But I just don't think that's going to translate. So 35% is where I'd actually put it in this range. I wouldn't go over 40.
Neil, I don't know if you were talking.
I wouldn't say anything. What are you guys? Okay, what are you talking to me for?
I couldn't tell if you. I couldn't tell if you.
I'm joking. Really, I was talking. I was asking you for your opinion.
I don't honestly really have much to add. It mostly makes me sad. We got to move on to some more fun conversations because I love Mekhi Lemon. I did have Tyson. My receiver rankings were Tyson, Lemon, and then Tate. The NFL disagreed with me, obviously, but I think Mekhi Lemon's really good. I agree with the stylistic issues. There's just no way I can put Dontavian Wicks as the favorite late season for a talent like Lemon. There's a lot of issues, but we're talking a few months from now. I would still make Lemon the favorite, even though that if you asked me this 2 months ago, it would have been he'd be lower on this list for sure.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple more rookies to discuss in our next couple groupings. First, Jeremy Bernard and Michael Pittman. Jordan, where do you have it? Jeremy Bernard, what are his odds of outscoring Michael Pittman weeks 11 through 17?
So with Aaron Rodgers being the starting quarterback, this is where that stems from. I think it's between the 6 to 14% range because Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback and rookie receivers just don't get on the field. It's just his MO. Like, I don't want to see it. I think this team's going to live in 12 personnel, which is not what Mike McCarthy has been. But I think with Washington and Freiermuth and the way that Aaron is currently trending and just establishing the run and stuff, like that's where they're going to live in. I love Jeremy Bernard as a player. I think he's an exceptional like receiver for what he's going to be asked to do. Like he's not the typical rookie receiver where he's going to be someone that's on time for stuff. He's going to be understanding what he needs to be doing. He's going to be a pure football player, blocking, getting it done after the catch. But unfortunately, none of that matters with Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the way that they just refuse to, or he refuses to trust rookie receivers being on the field at a very high rate.
Eric, how do you see it?
Yeah, I'm not as high on Jeremy the player. I think he's the epitome of like he's definitely going to be an NFL receiver for quite a while, but it's more of like this is a professional wide receiver, like the
Tyler Boyd?
Romeo, but Boyd. We just did the Romeo Doubs thing. Like Romeo Doubs is a professional wide receiver.
Yeah,
it's just not like crazy exciting. That's how I feel about Jeremy. And so when he has another professional wide receiver in front of him who is a veteran and better at all of that stuff, and I agree. Everything you outlined with the Steelers and with Rodgers and 12 personnel and all that kind of stuff, that makes like he already has to like beat Roman Wilson. And I think he eventually will beat Roman Wilson for the routes, right? But he has to do that. And then there's still DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman in front of him, and that's just to be the third guy in a wide receiver route here. So it's gonna be very difficult. I actually think Michael Pittman's a pretty good value in drafts. So anywhere in the bottom half of the board would be fine.
Yeah, I think 6 to 14% seems about right to me, and I want to bet on Jeremy Bernard. I do think there's probably some nuance, right, to the rookies playing with Aaron Rodgers. Like you said, he's going to be a professional, and we just saw him. He caught diving end zone touchdown. Maybe
he played well in
practice or something. Like
he's
good. He's looking good. If he's playing well enough, I would think that Aaron Rodgers would want to play with him. I don't think he just like hates rookies as a concept. Just like they have the rookies he's played with have not earned their way onto the field.
He hates lots of other things as a concept. Maybe not rookies.
Yeah, right.
He hated Devontae Adams. Like Devontae Adams could.
Devontae Adams was kind of bad for several years, right? It wasn't just
but was it because Rodgers is an asshole, or was it because Devontae Adams?
Devontae Adams learned to be one of the best receivers in football, and they're like, nobody, you're on the bench. We do not want you here.
Yeah, I mean, he probably just does hate rookies, but you never know. Maybe it has something to do with the rookies he's played with.
Jeremy is the archetype to put that to the test for sure. Like for sure.
So I'm hopeful that will happen, and at the same time, it's still like, but Michael Pittman is an established veteran, and still unlikely that he's going to outscore Michael Pittman
we're getting
anyway. So I think 6 to 14% seems fair for Jeremy over Michael Pittman. It's better than 0%, but still fairly low. Another rookie, and this is another one that I think is could potentially be pretty interesting here. And I'm forgetting where we are. Who starts this?
Eric.
Okay, Eric. DeJon Stribling and Deebo Samuel. Who do you like better? Where do you have the odds of DeJon Stribling outscoring Deebo Samuel weeks 11 through 17?
Yeah, so I lied earlier when I said I only had one 75%er. It's because it pained me to put Omar up there in the 75%er. This is one up there for sure. And it's funny because the two 75% guys are one rookie that I liked. I like Omar. I liked Omar a lot better than Jordan did, and I didn't really love Stribling the prospect. But at the end of the day, we just have to. The tea leaves are the tea leaves, and Deebo Samuel is clearly not the same old Deebo Samuel. And even if he is better than I would give him credit for at this stage of his career, everything out of camp thus far since him getting there, you hear a lot of like he's sprinkling in. They're testing him at running back. He's mixing in for some manufactured touches. You hear a lot of that kind of stuff, which I think is totally fine and honestly a great use of Deebo Samuel at this stage of his career. But that's not what you hear about DeJon Stribling. Everything you hear about him is they use the word baller. They use the word, like doesn't act like a rookie, knows every position already, knows all these nuances that we're talking about, like these rookies missing time. He has that shit nailed down already. And that's really impressive also he's an older prospect, so he should be a little bit ahead on that in that regard. But I'm not sure Deebo's like anywhere near a full-time player outside of like a bunch of more injuries out of, the substation takes a bunch more wide receivers from the roster. I think Stribling's going to like arguably run the most routes on this team, sans Mike Evans. And, we'll see what happens with Mike Evans' health over the course of the season. Like, I have Dejon Stribling ranked higher than Deebo Samuel in my rankings by a decent little clip, and he goes after. So like, I think it's pretty clear that he would be a heavy favorite over Deebo, especially late in the season where Deebo's body's got to hold up and Stribling's theoretically getting better as he gets more reps in the system.
That's so interesting. So I definitely did not have it in the 75%. I probably would have put it in the 30 to 49% range. Like they go fairly similar in ADP, and I can see the upside for Dejon Stribling. I think I have more holding a candle more for Deebo Samuel, just based on like he came into camp looking healthy. Like he looked fit coming in this year. He had the team.
No fat Deebo.
No fat Deebo. He's fit Deebo this year. Had George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, I don't know, various teammates, calling him saying, hey, come back to the 49ers. So to me, it's like he knows the system. Shanahan obviously knows him really well, knows how to use Deebo Samuel, and he's coming and looking fit. Even last year when a lot of people say he looked washed, and I think he did look washed relative to past years, but he was still kind of a yak demon out there. He was still like top 10 of, like, you had to put like some minimum on, like top 10 in terms of yak per reception last year, out of 100 qualifying receivers or something with some minimum. So like still pretty good after the catch. And now he comes in just looking healthier, coming in an offense that he's played well in before. So to me, it'd be certainly lower than 75%. I probably would have put it in the 30 to 49% range. And part of that is also like Dejon Stribling was not seen as a great like receiving prospect, like known more for his blocking. But like you said, like the hype has been unreal for Dejon Stribling. It'd be great if he does come in and he's, a star NFL, like actual receiver catching the ball. So I don't know. To me, there's a wider range of outcomes here. It's harder for me to pick a favorite between the two of them, because I think you can really make a case for either of them, and maybe both of them end up hitting at their current cost. Jordan, where are you at on Dejon Stribling odds of outscoring Deebo Samuel weeks 11 through 17?
It's so funny because like I wrote Stribling as my favorite day 3 receiver. Like I thought he was a very, very fun, like, because I was a big Stribling guy at Oklahoma State, and then he went to Ole Miss, and like I drafted so much of him, so a gross amount at this past season, and obviously didn't work out because Trinidad decided to spread the ball around. Like what he does functionally as a receiver is exactly what Shanahan loves. Like he wins off the line of scrimmage. If teams try to press him, he's got a lot of moves that he can win with. He is pretty fast. He's pretty big. He doesn't do the yak stuff, but like I know that he can get there. Like he is fit enough to be able to do some of those things. So it's interesting to watch what this one shapes out. I had it in the 75% as well, because I'm a very big Stribling guy and I just don't like Deebo's game whatsoever. But I am comfortable moving him down to the 50 to 74% just because of the fact that, like, not really anything to do with Deebo, but actually a lot to do with McCaffrey. Just randomly deciding like he's hurt again, and we might get Deebo at running back again, which is just so frustrating.
Yeah, it didn't factor in that Deebo turns back into a running back, and then he's definitely
he's inevitable. Like it's like, oh, he's going to be off the field with 2 wide receiver sets. It's like, no, he's not, because now he's running back.
Yeah, he's the running back in 2 wide receiver sets.
RB2 Deebo Samuel. All right, so we're moving this all the way down to 0 to 5%. Now that we factor in, so sounds like 50 to 74% is where
good compromise.
Good compromise for us.
Yeah,
okay.
It's mainly McCaffrey's injury that kind of brings me down a little bit. It's really funny. It's like, yeah, we're playing this game where we're not supposed to factor in injuries, and then like, McCaffrey being hurt is just like, it's funny because last year I was our fantasy football draft. I was like, yeah, I'll take McCaffrey at 4. I was like, you're gonna do that? You're gonna take Christian McCaffrey? I'm like, every time he plays, he's the best. He's just not the best when he doesn't play.
He's difficult. Every year he's difficult to figure out.
You just got to skip the years, bro. This year, Saquon, just draft Saquon. I promise he's going to be good again, and we're going to be like, what do you mean Saquon Barkley's really good at playing running back? Yeah. And then Derrick Henry is just inevitable. He's just never going to die.
I just want CMC and Derrick Henry to retire. Not even because like they're really fun to watch, but the discourse every year about like you know, when they get hurt, it's the, oh, you idiots drafted this guy, I knew he was going to get hurt. Or the Derrick Henry has the big 40-point games, like, oh, you idiots didn't know that Derrick Henry was going to do that. Like, it's just
Hember, you're not taking him in.
Yeah, how did
December
you not
guy?
know that Derrick? Don't you know he does this? It's like, God, the discourse is just so terrible.
Yeah, agreed with that. We get to me with what I think is kind of a difficult one, which is not supposed to happen. I'm supposed to get the gimmies, and now I have sort of a difficult one with Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed. Maybe you guys think this is easier than I do, but I struggle with this one because Cooper Kupp, they're paying him a lot of money. Rashid Shaheed, they're paying him a lot of money now too, but he has done literally nothing with Seattle so far. So I do think it is possible that he does not hit in the way that we're expecting. But it's tough. Like the upside is still there. At a median, I think I would put this at probably 6 to 14% that Cooper Kupp outscores Rashid Shaheed. I'm tempted to put it at 15 to 29% just because I think he's going to be out there on the field a fair amount. And Rashid Shaheed is a pretty hit or miss prospect. Yeah, man, that's tough. No, I'm gonna leave it 6 to 14%. I don't want to bet on Cooper Kupp this year as an old man. Jordan, where are you at on Cooper Kupp versus Rashid Shaheed?
I've played with this number like 4 or 5 times. I don't know how to exactly feel about like the new offense. I don't trust the new guy that they hired. I know that we're supposed to trust because of how successful they were last year, but I think that Kubiak is just a great mind. I don't think this offense is going to be able to push the ball as well down the field as they did last season. I know that Kenneth Walker, I think, will actually make a little bit of a difference not being around for them this year, and that they can't just limit his touches and make it really frustrating to play DFS. But 6-14% is a good range. I think that Cooper Kupp, like, if he is outscoring them, it's not anything significant to matter. Like we're looking at maybe like he's getting 8 points a week on Underdog.
Eric, what are you at?
I think 8 would be really impressive for Cooper Kupp at this stage, if I'm being honest, in half-point PPR. But 6 to 14 is where I put it. It's more of, are they lying to us about the Shaheed stuff? Because they lied to us last year about the Shaheed stuff. And again, it was Clint Kubiak, and then they re-signed him to a big deal. So you would assumption of rational coaching, that we are going to play this guy that we just traded for and then signed to an extension, and Cooper Kupp is clearly just not it anymore. But he is the trusted veteran. The concern for Kupp is not even really Shaheed. It's the early reports are, JSN is JSN, and that they continue to bang the drum for Shaheed playing a bigger role than he did last year. And Torrey Horton is back. And Torrey Horton was stealing. Like, Torrey Horton was legit good before he got hurt last year. They coined him Jerry Rice Jr. in training camp last year because he was shining so much. And he was pretty good before he got hurt. So I think he can steal routes from Cooper Kupp to keep him away from Shaheed. But I don't think it can be 0 to 5 just because there's just enough uncertainty about just Shaheed, right? Like, Cooper Kupp could score 5 fantasy points per game, and Torrey Horton does get on the field, but it's at the expense of Shaheed. So I think that's the right range.
All right, perfect. We can leave it there. Moving on to Jordan with, I think, maybe a slightly tougher one. We did turn injuries off, so that helps. So we got Jalen McMillan versus Chris Godwin. What are the odds of Jalen McMillan outscoring Chris Godwin weeks 11 through 17, Jordan?
I was a little bit higher when we first talked about this show idea, like that Jalen McMillan. And then obviously he just goes down. I know we're assuming health, so I put it in the 30 to 49% range. I'm worried about the Tampa Bay Bucks team as a whole, just with like the locker room dysfunction that we're getting with the Vita Vea contract, how they handled Baker Mayfield. And like the good news is they play in the NFC South and we all suck, but we all think we're the best team in the division and that the rest of everybody sucks. So that'll be good for them. But like if they get into a spot where like they start, being very bad, they fire Todd Bowles, who's very much on the hot seat. We could be looking at like, why are they playing Chris Godwin over just playing McMillan, Hurst, and Nick Buka? Like that could kind of turn into that. I mean, I know the injuries are turned off, so I'm factoring in coach firing here, but I also think McMillan, like last year, he balled to the end of the season, and when he's gone on the field, he's just been good. It's just unfortunate that his role in the offense, we'll see what it is, and with his hamstring issues, it's just super frustrating.
Yeah, this is a tough one to turn injuries off for because it's like both these players just have huge injury risks, I think. Or maybe it makes it easier, but I don't know. I think 30 to 49% feels fair here. It would be lower if anything for me, but Eric, do you disagree with that, or do you like 30 to 49%?
That's where I put it too. And like you said, we're turning injuries off, but we're not turning off historical injuries and like the compounding effect of said injuries, right? That's the Tank Dell case. That's the Chris Godwin case. Chris Godwin's one of my favorite players of the last 10 or 15 years in football. I think he's just he was at least such an underrated wide receiver. And maybe he does bounce back, right? And we look really foolish, like, LOL, you idiots. Chris Godwin, he's back, right, after another year to recover from a devastating injury. But also, father time comes for everyone, and he has suffered serious injuries. He's been pretty banged up over the course of his career. And like you said, things could spiral. Jalen McMillan has been really productive when he's been on the field. So I just think there's a very real chance that, at the end of the season, they want to get a look at Ted Hurst. And Jalen McMillan is Jalen McMillan and Ibuka both can move around the formation. Godwin is pretty much just functionally a slot receiver at this point in his career. So that aging guy, if he's not as effective anymore, it's very easy to see how he's just not even playing as much down the stretch. So I wouldn't call it a favorite, but 30 to 49 is where I put it.
Yeah, I think that is fair. I think we're all kind of on the same page on the Bucks. Now the Titans, Calvin Ridley and Wan'Dale Robinson. We have the incumbent and the new guy. Eric, where are you at on Calvin Ridley's odds of outscoring Robinson in the final stretch of the season?
I did. The final stretch of the season is a very difficult part for this when Calvin Ridley is involved. Calvin Ridley is like, what's the comp? You know, we always, Jason Tatum's 21 years old, continually saying that. It's like, I don't think most the average fantasy fan has no idea how old Calvin Ridley is, because he came in old. He missed like 2 years, basically taking a break from the NFL, and now he's old and not as good anymore, and also suffered a very serious injury. He's back and healthy and all of that. It's just, I can't put it in the bottom. Like, if we're sort of grading off of a curve, the guys at the bottom are like, almost, I mean, they have a better chance of being replaced than they do of outscoring the other guy. But I find it really difficult to see how Calvin Ridley outscores Wan'Dale. It's just Wan'Dale's also not special. So I put it in 6 to 14, just above the bottom tier, because Wan'Dale is, ultimately kind of a PPR scam. He showed a little bit more last year in a diversity of route tree, and he does have day ball now again. So that's nice for him. It's possible. It's technically possible that Calvin Ridley has a resurgence, for sure. It's technically possible. It's also possible that Alec Manor is running those routes and Calvin Ridley is not later. So I can't put it in the bottom, but I can't put it any higher than 6 to 14 either.
Yeah, I was drafting a ton of Calvin Ridley for a while earlier in the summer because he was pretty good when he was healthy last year. And now the reports are that he's fighting for the wide receiver 3 role, which I guess is probably could have assumed, but like with the two, second year receivers who both looked better than expected last year. So don't love to hear that if you're taking a guy at a good
he did get the starters reps in the preseason game, if that, for people that are curious.
But we're also talking weeks 11 through 17, which is right. This team not probably not all that competitive, and so it's I think 6 to 14% is about right. It's not very likely that Calvin Ridley outscores Wan'Dale Robinson late in the year. Jordan, do you see it any differently?
I had it a little higher than you guys, but that's because I have a personal thing. I've known Calvin my whole life, so that's a tough it's a tough thing to just knock the kid with knowing what he's been through. But the one bull aspect that I'll say, like a bullish case, everybody points to Brian Dable and working with Wan'Dale Robinson. Well, he also worked with Calvin for every year in college. He was the OC at Alabama too. So just again, I think that in this purpose, 6 to 14% makes sense, because like, if it is working with Cam Ward, because obviously this past preseason game was just atrocious, I'm interested to see what it truly looks like towards the end of the year. And, with this offense, Carnell Tate should just be the one. And the two, I'm hoping Wan'Dale Robinson gives us more yards. Like, I don't want to see 100 catches and 900 yards. I need to see more.
I'm just really impressed with Jordan's name drops. I mean, I feel like I've learned so much about all the guys that Jordan has known his whole life are in the NFL.
Bro, our high school football team featured Greg Russo, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy. We had 2 other kids go to the pros. We never won a playoff game because South Florida, a little different with the athletes. We played a team that won states 2 years in a row that had 23 kids go D1, and one of them was headlined by Devin Bush. The linebacker that dropped in the Steelers, the top 10. Our quarterback decided to keep it on an RPO on we were in double overtime, and Devin Bush took him and proceeded to pick him up and launch him. Like he just tossed him as like a celebratory. Like, sorry, buddy. Better luck next year. Oh, we also had Calvin's brother, and everybody calls him Cal or Riley Ridley. Growing up, that was Calvin. There was Calvin and Calvin Ridley. He changed it when he went to Georgia.
Wow, that's confusing.
Not fun.
I think I would change my name too.
Yeah.
It was not a fun one growing up.
So just real Friday Night Light stuff going on in South Florida. I thought it was all just Texas, but I guess it's all the South.
Oh no,
South Florida, bro.
Yeah.
The park near our house, we used to like there would be 7-on-7 like with all these kids plus like Xavier Shreppo, who's a young kid. Lamar Jackson would be there. Asante Samuel Jr. Like these dudes would play 7-on-7 over there, and it would be an NFL game. Like I didn't know it at the time. I went because like I was friends with them / like my brothers, played a little bit. Yeah, I learned real quick. I'm not playing football when I was like 15. I was like, you guys are different. Yeah, I'm good. I'm okay.
Fun memories there. Crazy. Well, we only have one left, and it comes to me, and it is, I think, an easy one. Maybe you guys will see it differently. I have Antonio Williams outscoring Stephon Diggs 0 to 5% of the time. Maybe if either of you has more faith in the rookie, let me know. Jordan, what do you think of Antonio Williams versus Stephon Diggs?
This signing really hurt me because I liked Antonio Williams at Clemson. He was like a cool slot guy that like I looked at this offense. I was like, we got David Blau coming over. Like he loved with Ben Johnson tie / the Lions and throwing the ball to the slot. Like we're going to have a lot of fun. And then just, no, that's not fair. I put at best 7% in my head. But yeah, I'm fine with 0 to 5.
Okay. Eric, do you, where are you at with Diggs?
Yep. Easy 0 to 5.
And he played in the third quarter, didn't he? This last preseason game.
It's been, we have to call out if we're going to call out these other rookies and stuff, Omar and such playing deep into these the same. Antonio has not had a good camp. He wasn't running even before they signed Stephon Diggs. He was not running with the ones. Again, it's not over for him. Like as a player, he's going to make the team and everything. And who knows how the end of the season goes. It's just Stephon Diggs is also fairly duplicative skill set wise at this stage in his career. This isn't peak Stephon Diggs, that's playing on the outside, catching game-winning touchdowns in the playoffs for the Vikings. This is like fancy slot receiver Stephon Diggs part of his career. So yeah, This is closer to our like Yoshi T. Higgins than it is to like Calvin Ridley Wandale, unfortunately for Antonio.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad to hear you say that because that's exactly how I see it. Just does not seem likely at all that
Antonio I was drafting him too early before the Diggs signing, and
he looked exciting for a little while.
It was kind of like him versus Brandon Ayuk. I didn't do it, but now with Diggs,
if they signed Ayuk, we would have actually a kind of a fun conversation here. But Diggs is a very different conversation.
Yeah, it's like Diggs is just going to be good. Like he was like 1,000 yards last year, just getting open. He didn't do it in the Super Bowl, but Devin Witherspoon's the highest paid corner now, so makes sense.
Well, we finish. So that is the entire board. We have way more in the 0 to 5% range than the 75+% range. I guess I'll read off the board real quick before we get out of here. Just to reminder, recap where we finished in terms of all the different rankings. So in the 0 to 5% range, just the wide receiver 3 has no shot of outscoring the wide receiver 2. We have Kendrick Bourne, no shot of outscoring Michael Wilson, Xavier Legette versus Jalen Coker, Xavier Thomas versus Romo Dunze, Andre Yoshevich versus T. Higgins, Ryan Flournoy versus George Pickens, Isaac Tesla versus J-Mo, Nick Westbrook-Akine versus Alec Pierce, Jordan Whittington versus Devontae Adams, Devon Vele versus Jordan Tyson, and Antonio Williams versus Stephon Diggs. Tier up, we have some shot of outscoring the wide receiver 2. We have Keon Coleman versus Khalil Shakir, Jeremy Bernard versus Michael Pittman, Cooper Kupp versus Rashid Shaheed, and Calvin Ridley versus Wan'Dale Robinson in that 6 to 14% range. In the 15 to 29% range, we have Jerry Jeudy outscoring Denzel Boston, Cyrus Allen versus Xavier Worthy, Chris Bell versus Caleb Douglas, Jawan Jennings versus Jordan Addison, and Kayshon Boutte versus Romeo Dobbs. Our biggest range is the 30 to 49% range, where the wide receiver 3 is just a slight underdog to the wide receiver 2 by underdog ADP. In this range, we have Jahan Dotson versus Zachariah Branch, Tank Dell versus Jaden Higgins, Jacoby Myers versus Brian Thomas, Jack Besh versus Trey Tucker, Darnell Mooney versus Malachi Fields, Dontavian Wicks versus Mekhi Lemon, and Jalen McMillan versus Chris Godwin. Now we get to the hot take segment. These are the wide receiver threes that we think are more likely than not going to outscore their wide receiver twos by underdog ADP in weeks 11 through 17. Here we have Rashad Bateman outscoring Jacoby Lane, Pat Bryant versus Cortland Sutton, Matthew Golden versus Jaden Reed, Trey Harris versus Quentin Johnston, and Dejon Striblin versus Deebo Samuel. And then the most painful in the 75% plus range, we have Adonai Mitchell outscoring Omar Cooper over 75% of the time. RIP to our best ball bags. This is a fun first episode. I enjoyed doing this process with you guys. I feel like I learned a lot about how you guys are seeing these players. I feel like a lot of like agreement. We didn't have a ton of huge disagreements. I was like shocked by the Jack Besh take, but also like not that shocked because like who cares about the Raiders? I don't have any strong. It's not like I'm drafting a ton of the other guys. Any final thoughts from either of you? Jordan, do you want to? Any final thoughts or where people can find your work? Any announcements you want to make? Anything like that?
Oh no, you can. You'll see us on Sundays with Roto Grinders again this year, a little earlier, hopefully. I believe that's going to be the case. But you'll see a lot of my college football work with Roto Grinders, some takes for player props and stuff over on Action Network. But for this, it's been a fun show. I'm excited to do running back and some of the other positions as we move forward. And I actually think it would be really fun eventually to do the wide receiver 2 versus wide receiver 1, so we could yell at Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison and stuff like that, because those takes this all season are just a fun time. But Eric, how about you, buddy? What have you been up to?
Yeah, no, I think most people notify me at Spike Week, and of course with you guys on Sunday mornings. This when we started talking about this, Neil and I were talking, and I was looking for like some additional show stuff to do. I do tons of solo work, admittedly, over at Spike Week, which is fun. I get to hang out with the chat and everything, but it's always nice to have some additional people to talk to. But like I said, sort of at the top, Neil was like something kind of new rather than us just showing up, draft some teams, talk about the same shit that everybody else is talking about. And he came up with this idea, and after we've now done this first one, I love it. I think it's super fun. It's the sort of nuance and the context around how you think through these situations, like especially through the lens of like how much do you believe in this thing, right? Like for me this summer, I've sort of joked of like I use a lot of Moneyball references. Okay, I like the book and the movie and everything, and there's a scene in Moneyball where Brad Pitt wants to trade Carlos Pena because the manager will not sit Carlos. That he wants him to rest Carlos Pena because he's not a part of the plan, and so he's like, "Fuck it, I'm going to trade him." And Jonah Hill's like, "What? You can't. He's an all-star. You can't trade this guy, And he's like, he puts down the phone. He says, "Do you believe in this thing or not?" And like I've sort of taken that to heart over the course of this summer of like, okay, do I really believe in this thing? And like question myself too, like, we rip takes and we like players and we, whatever. And it's like, how much do you really believe in this thing? And I think this is really helpful to like talk it through and hear somebody else like provide counterpoints and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm excited to sort of see where it goes. Obviously, the upcoming future episodes like running backs and some other things that we'll come up with, but like where it leads to in the future, you know what I mean? Like what is this? What do we want to do in season style stuff? Like I'm sure there's week 1 will happen. And there can be some awfully like, how confident are you in this thing that happened in week 1? That like, how is this, is this type of stuff real? I think this framing of the conversation is like definitely something unique, but also something really like powerful. And I was learning a lot the whole time we were talking to.
Definitely up the alley for this group, because we all like thinking in terms of probabilities and putting percentages to it. It is an interesting thing to do, to try to put percentages to our takes. I really enjoyed recording this episode. You can of course find me Flaniverse YouTube channel. In season is coming up really soon. We're going to be doing the Roto Grinders show. I'll be all over the Fantasy Points channel, my own YouTube channel. So you'll be able to find me all the usual places, but we'll be back soon with the running backs episode that Jordan teased, and we'll see what we come up with after that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun recording with you two. Thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you soon.